Welcome to the Main Character Podcast. I am your host, Brandon Hamblin, main character of my own story. But this podcast isn't about me. It's about you, and all of you. Every person that has ever lived on this planet, all 8 billion people here now, all that came before us, and all that will come hereafter are the main characters in their own story. My aim is to interview people that embody living in their energy and discovering from their perspective what their perception of reality is like. Buckle up. You're about to experience the world through another main character's eyes.
So I got to be careful asking you questions, what you're telling me.
Actually, we did kind of like a mini EBC luncheon we usually do every Tuesday with a couple of the other members. Have you met Mike?
Yeah.
Big Mike?
Yeah.
So Mike, Terry, and Brittany. You met Brittany?
Yep.
And Mike's listened to all of them, which is very flattering. And he's like, yeah, you're very agreeable. And at first it kind of bugged me, but then I realized that because the podcast isn't about you, of course you would agree with that person because you're figuring out what makes them them. So you don't want to be like argumentative.
Right.
You know, so I don't care what your religious background is, your spiritual beliefs. I don't care, or your political beliefs, any of that stuff. Like I do because I want to know, but it doesn't impact me. Like,
right.
You see it that way for a reason.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what we're doing. So yeah. Let's see here. Well, let's go with summer since we kicked it off with summer. You guys do mountain biking during the summer.
Mountain biking is probably our biggest summer activity. And
it sounds like that's better here than the backcountry skiing is here.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
Because Canfield, you can mountain bike, but you can't backcountry ski. There's not enough snow.
Oh, yeah.
So to backcountry ski, you're going an hour away to wherever. Schweitzer has some. We haven't done that yet, but so does... we've heard Lookout has really great backcountry skiing, but we haven't tried it yet. And then this last season we did... Mount Spokane has an uphill pass, and so we did a couple of uphill laps.
Cool.
There, but it's not backcountry.
Yeah, and it's certainly not Jackson Hole.
No, nothing compares.
No, yeah. Which didn't you guys take a trip back over there?
We
recently?
did. Yeah, we were. I don't know, a month ago. Something like
cool. That. How did that? Was there still enough snow? Did you guys do?
We
any
didn't
of that?
go ski.
Oh,
it was kind of a short trip. We were just there to visit some friends and surprise some friends, and so it was fun.
Nice.
We just stayed at their house, and
that's always a good time.
Yeah, great.
How much has Jackson changed since? Because you grew up there, right?
Yes. So I'm one of the few people that was born and raised in Jackson.
Right. Because everybody else is a migrant in some way, shape, or form.
Right. And Jackson didn't even exist on a map when I was born. Right.
Oh.
So it was Yellowstone National Park, right?
But
but it was not the home of the billionaires at that point.
Right. Which is kind of wild.
Yeah. So I got to see it go from small town Wyoming cowboy kind of thing. And my dad was there in the 80s. That's when he started there. And the stories they tell of it was a Western town.
Yeah.
The old sheriff that had, he had the mustache.
Oh, yeah.
And he walked around in a cowboy hat and he had a pearl handled revolver on. And genuinely, this was prior to the Yellowstone effect and all that. This was old school. That was his gun. He was,
and he was the law. You weren't.
So
probably
the stories they talked about with the cowboy bar is, and this was back in the day when, he would go in and they would 100% throw people out through the doors. And the thing is they would do that, but they would just throw them out and say, you're too drunk, go home.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays it's like, oh, you're going to jail.
Right.
Which I kind of liked. There's pros and cons to both sides. It really depends.
Yeah.
But back in the day when it was a small enough town and everybody knew everybody, and it was kind of the, hey, we're not going to record this and just go home.
Right.
Done.
And we aren't going to ruin your life. You aren't going to have something on your record. You're kind of a jackass right now.
And there used to be bar fights all the time.
Right.
One of the mechanics that I know from there is in his mid 80s now.
Yeah.
And he started going to Jackson in the 1940s.
Oh, geez. So it was, I just watched Tombstone. So like, this is what I'm, a more modern version of that is what I have in my head.
Yeah. I mean, it was amazing to just, the fact that his parents, I think he was in, it was like Chicago or something, somewhere in that area.
Yeah.
And they drove out when he was a kid, drove to Jackson. And the thing is, back then,
I was going to say, what was the
you're
draw?
in a 1940s automobile.
Right. No air conditioning.
There's not much for gas stations, no AAA. Like, if you get stranded, you're stranded.
Yeah.
So it blew my mind that they would, I mean, it's one of the most beautiful places on earth.
Right. And that is the draw, right? It's just naturally beautiful, tons of cool natural things there.
Right. But as I grew up, it slowly progressed to, and I don't know why. I think it's just Wyoming has great tax laws for people. So all of the really, really, really rich people take advantage of that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then Jackson, of course, is the most beautiful place in Wyoming. And so that's where they pick to go.
Well, and I think that's kind of, because to me, and I've been all over the country, I think the Northwest is amazing because it's got like a little bit of everything. You 100%. Want rainforest, you've got rainforest. You want mountains, you got mountains. You want desert, you've got desert. Like, name the thing and it's here. And you get past the Rockies and right, I mean the back end of the Rockies. Yeah, and because most of Wyoming is not Jackson.
No.
And so it's like it just captured that. It's like the little corner of magic.
Yep.
Yeah. So then what was it like growing up there? Because so your dad moved there in the 80s?
Mm-hmm.
And then you were born in the 80s.
90s.
Oh, you're a 90s baby.
Yep.
Oh, you're younger than me.
Yep.
I feel like an old man now. Okay. So what year?
93.
Oh, 93. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So he gets there in the 80s. You're in the 90s really is the best decade. There's a lot of good stuff in the 90s.
Especially in Jackson, because it was, I mean, there were some issues because Amazon wasn't around at that time.
Right. So good luck hitting anything.
You'd drive 2 hours to go to Idaho Falls to go get it.
Oh, Idaho Falls is the nearest spot.
So like,
and I've been there and there ain't a lot. I mean,
in
it's
Jackson,
a town.
It was the Kmart. Like, that was what you bought anything at.
Yeah.
And then grocery store. And so if you needed anything outside of that, you were going to Idaho Falls.
Right. What did your dad do?
So the private part of the airport there, the FBO.
Oh, that's right.
So he bought that in the 80s, started running it.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Nice. Oh yeah. We'll have to dive into your love of aviation.
Right.
All that. So, but that's where that comes from. His dad was doing it.
Yep.
So he's doing that. You're born in 93. What was it like as a preteen?
I mean, Jackson, now looking back, right at the time, I wouldn't have known any different.
Right.
But now looking back, town was quiet, kind of the everybody knew everybody thing. And hiking around there, all the trails, it was amazing. And my mom, thanks to her, she loved hiking and was, we went with friends all the time, and that was a big activity we did, is just go hiking.
Right.
And so in Jackson, there's nothing better to do than be outdoors and enjoy all of
right. Enjoy it.
So, yeah.
Well, and that's one of the problems that I think a lot of people run into now is everybody has their face in a screen. Mm-hmm. Right. And even back then in the 90s, for me, I would have been playing Super Nintendo or N64 or whatever.
I did my fair share of that too.
You did? Okay. Or going to the movies or going to the mall. And I definitely didn't take advantage of all the cool natural stuff around me. I was in Scouts and I would go on campouts, and I was near Snoqualmie Pass. And so during high school, we'd run up there and ski and snowboard. But a lot of it was, okay, I'm in my buddy's room and we're doing whatever stupid stuff.
I mean, I did the same thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
And I again, looking back, even in high school, I wish, so I've loved skiing forever. I've skied since I was a little kid.
Yeah. So your parents did that too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. They skied. My dad stopped skiing when I was fairly young.
Okay. But not enough to detract you from taking part.
They put me in like ski club stuff, and I never did any racing, but
yeah.
And so for the longest time, I loved winter, and summer was, I didn't have the mountain biking or climbing or any of these other sports that I kind of started after I got back from college.
Yeah.
When I experienced some of these other places, and I'm like, what am I doing? All of these things are so cool. I want to learn them and do them and be out there. And
yeah.
so, yeah, that was kind of the start once I got back from college that I really dove into all of those things.
Nice. Okay. So before we get to college, I'm curious. So small town. So I'm sure graduating class from high school, and I mean,
196.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot. Everybody knew everybody.
Yeah.
You guys grew up religious?
Not really. It was kind of interesting. My parents are both technically Catholic.
Okay. Yep.
I guess we should have gone over that at the beginning. Huh?
It does. The mic usually doesn't pick up the phone's ringing.
Yeah.
I think it'll be fine.
Yeah. So my parents are both technically Catholic. Did the confirmation, I think is what it's called, and that whole thing.
Yeah.
And
so like just tapped in enough, probably Christmas, Easter, and maybe a couple other things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So my grandparents, at least my grandmother on my mom's side, was very religious, but also died when I was super young.
So, oh, okay. So no influence
just never.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of did never take off.
Yeah.
I remember my mom sent me to Sunday school when I was a kid a couple of times, and I was like, Mama, I don't want to go to this again. I'm not into it.
Yeah.
Because it was like daycare and stuff.
Right.
Like,
no, I'm good.
And so she's like, okay. And
nice.
That was it.
That's good.
Yeah.
One of the things I was always jealous of, because I moved around every 2 years on average growing up. I was jealous of people that got to grow up in a town, have friends. You still have friends from when you were a kid?
Yeah. So I had a really interesting childhood situation because I don't know why. I guess because they wanted to be partially in Florida, but I grew up spending half to 3/4 of the school year in Jackson.
Yeah.
And then half to a quarter of the year in South Florida.
Oh,
so like I actually switched schools, had friends in both places.
That's cool.
I never had a spring break because my spring break, we would go back to Jackson and I would go to school for spring break because they were offset because I wanted to see my friends.
Yeah.
And so I do still have friends in Jackson for sure. And most of the people that grew up in Jackson have left.
Well, yeah, they've been priced out.
Right. That's the biggest thing is the price.
Yeah.
And then, so I have a couple of friends that still live in Jackson.
Yeah.
But most of my friends are all over the place.
Well, and that's kind of nice because when you want to go visit somewhere, it's like, I have a buddy there.
Right.
You got a room for me?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So that's, let's see here. Anything else crazy? Siblings?
Nope. No siblings.
No siblings. Only child. Does your mom and dad still live over there?
Yes. So interestingly, they just bought a house here last summer.
Oh, cool.
And so the plan is to kind of migrate from there to here because they want to be around family.
Yeah.
We're the only family that's left at this point, pretty much. So,
yeah. Well, and Emily is, I think, very proud of the fact that she got her family to move over here. And so everybody's migrating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jackson up to Coeur d'Alene.
It was funny because this was, I think it was before we were even engaged that it kind of started the talk about moving to a new place and moving as a family with her parents and her sister and brother-in-law and everyone. And I just remember her asking me, like, is it okay that we're going to be so close to my family?
Oh,
and one, I love her family, so
that helps.
But I also was like, are you kidding me? That means we've got built-in babysitters, dog sitters. I mean, it's
perfect.
Yeah.
And that is the hard part because none of the family followed us over here. We thought we had maybe one or two people convinced. And when you don't have when you don't have family and then you haven't built up your community yet, good luck with the babysitter. Good luck with the dog sitter. It's So
we love it up here though, because we found that it's a lot easier to make friends too.
It really is.
Everyone's nicer, and we get along with almost all of our neighbors.
Yeah. Coeur d'Alene is this whole inland, what is this? North Idaho Panhandle area is kind of unique because where I come from on the west side along the I-5 corridor, Oregon, Washington, You meet somebody, you have a great conversation, and yeah, let's hang out. And then you never hear from that person ever again.
Yeah.
It's called I think it's the cold freeze. Yeah, there's some term for it. Here, though, everybody, it's almost like having the Jackson effect where everybody knows everybody, 1 degree of separation, but there's 50,000 people.
Right.
And so it doesn't matter what your thing is. And I'm tapped into like all sorts of different communities. There's something for somebody. There's a community for somebody.
Yeah. Which is cool.
It's great. Yeah. And one of the things I think a lot about, and kind of going back to the sheriff just kicking people out of the bar, is for something like that to work, you have to have a high trust society.
Right.
And a lot of places, especially the big cities, that doesn't even remotely exist.
Yeah.
You have to be letter of the law and everybody's the same. And so everybody gets treated the same. You can't really have that personal touch along the way.
Right.
Which is too bad. And
agree.
Obviously with the vast majority of people living in the big cities, their reality is that doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that's probably also why you have a lot of people that are locals that have been here for a generation or two, that they end up
starting to get frustrated.
Yeah, they get I think they were welcoming at first, and they certainly are welcoming once you've established yourself here. But I think they don't want this to change, and I don't blame them. I don't want it to change either.
Right. Yeah, the hardest part, and I've made this comment before, that it's you can't halt development, but you can steer it.
Yeah, that's so well said.
It's really frustrating to me when you get the people that are like, close the roads, don't let anyone else in. Like you're actually harming yourself by saying that. Like if you have a light touch and you're smart about it, you can really
you can steer it.
Yeah, you can steer it. But it's with population increase, there's change.
There's change.
There's nothing you can do about it.
Right. And I actually think there is almost a barrier between Washington and Idaho, because Liberty Lake is the exception. I think that feels more Idaho than Washington, but you get into Valley, you get into Spokane, and you're like, we are not in Kansas anymore.
No,
Toto.
It feels way different.
Way different. It's a 40-minute drive, maybe, and 2 totally different worlds.
Yeah.
And so I like the way that you said that you can certainly steer the development.
Well, it's funny is because Jackson, this is part of why I say that, is that watching how Jackson developed everything and what they did to try and halt development really did some interesting things, because I think it was 2012, 2013, the county passed an ordinance, or I don't know if you'd call it a zoning restriction, whatever, right. But you can't subdivide anything less than 35 acres.
Oh.
And the intent behind that was, we don't want to turn this into a city, right? So we want to keep it rural. We want to keep it, right? So what does that do, though? It makes it so now property values go through the roof.
Totally.
Because
Supply
can't
and
make
demand.
an affordable housing area. It doesn't exist because I have to have 35 acres. You know how much 35 acres is in Jackson? $6 million or so?
Oh, geez.
I mean, it's bananas.
Yeah.
And so there are quite a few of those little details that they did in the attempt to keep it small town, and
it turned it into rich town.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
only people that have
really
deep pockets can live there. And now what makes me laugh is it's there's a ton of people there that are part of the group that's for affordable housing and trying to make, workers can't live here. Like, we got to change.
Well, yeah, somebody's got to service all the rich people.
Totally. And what's great, though, is those are the same people that support the Jackson Hole Land Trust, which is so Jackson is surrounded by national forest, national park, natural resources, beautiful.
Yeah.
Right? The Jackson Hole Land Trust is the super rich people buy 500 acres.
Yeah.
Give 450 of it to the Jackson Hole Land Trust as the conservation easement, that kind of thing, right? So it will never change. They get to use it however they want, pretty much. I mean, you can't develop it, right? But now, so the Jackson Hole Land Trust has over 2,000 acres
Oh.
in Jackson that already doesn't have much land to begin with.
Right.
That now is undevelopable. And it's the same people.
They just keep shooting themselves in the
The
foot.
same people that are complaining about the affordable housing and all of that are the same people that love that the Jackson Hole Land Trust exists. And
Isn't that the way it works?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's comical. Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how that continues to develop.
Yeah. They keep trying to put, they have the affordable housing where it's essentially they give you money to buy something.
Right.
And then they cap the appreciation rate.
Okay.
So like it can only appreciate by 3% a year or whatever it is.
Right.
And then when you go to sell it, there's all these rules that are in place about how you do all those things.
Right.
And my comment, everyone's complaining about it. I'm just like, you shouldn't have any of that. Let it run, because
Right.
what'll happen is nobody will live and work there because they can't make enough wages to live there.
Right.
And then all of the rich people have no one to service them.
Right.
And then rich people start to leave.
Yeah.
And like the market figures itself
Right.
out.
The pendulum
It
always.
might take 50 years.
Right.
but
And when you just hold that pendulum up and don't let it do its thing,
Yeah.
right? We live in a free market. No, absolutely not even remotely close do we live to a free market. And then you wonder why mortgage rates and house prices and the cost of goods and everything else goes crazy. Well, when you're manipulating every facet of everything, that's kind of what happens.
Yeah.
And Jackson is the perfect example of Exhibit
lots
A.
of pulling strings.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Well, I'm glad you guys ended up here.
We are too. We love it.
And so so we got through Jackson up till college. What was the rest of the journey here like? What did you go to college for? Where did you go? What was college
I
like?
went to Texas A&M.
Oh,
in
cool.
College Station, Texas.
Yeah.
And
So you already had some exposure from going Jackson to Florida. Was Texas another like, whoa, well, this is different? Or did you just take to it like water?
it was
Like fish to water.
it was very different in a good way, similar to up here. This was crystallized in my mind when this happened to me, that I was like, I am not in the same place. So Jackson, through high school, had already kind of turned into the rich people place.
Oh, it already had.
Yeah, and
Okay.
so Chicago, New York, California, lots of money, lots of lawsuits. Kind of, it just developed this unfriendly nature. You don't. If somebody starts to walk up to you, your immediate response is that, "Uh-oh, what did I do?" Rather than like, "Oh, hi."
Right.
And so in college, I was in the dorms, and the dorm was attached to the cafeteria. Went down to get some food and a drink from the cafeteria, and go through one of the doors. You scan your pass to get through the door. So I scan my pass. I'm opening the door. I've got food and a drink, and I'm trying to open the door with one hand, and so my drink falls off and spilled up.
Yeah.
And super public place. Everyone's all over around. And I, of course, frustrated, but I go back to go get
Paper
napkins
towels?
to clean it up. By the time I got back, there was like a janitor person there, some other person that wasn't associated with the school at all, right? Like wasn't a worker there,
Right.
was there cleaning it up. And I came to come clean it up. And I remember she said, oh, honey, don't worry about it. I'll get it. You go eat your food.
Oh,
And
that's so
like,
sweet.
where am I? It was the most amazing. And everyone holds the door for everyone. It's
Right.
not just a guy girl thing. It's, it just is a polite thing to do.
Yeah.
And so people do it.
Yeah.
And
Southern hospitality at its
it
finest.
really is. And at
Yeah.
first I was kind of like, what do you want from me? Like, why are you, is there some,
What's the angle?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then after a while, like, oh, there isn't one. They're just nice.
They're just nice.
Yeah.
Well, and again, that almost feels like another high trust society sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Jackson doesn't have that.
Oh, that's too bad. Especially because it most certainly did.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
isn't it funny that when the rich people come in, that goes away? That's goofy.
Isn't
Some
it?
entitlement there.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Okay, so you're Texas A&M.
Mhm.
What are you studying? What were those years?
Electrical engineering,
Ah, yes.
which was interesting. I think if I were to go back and do it again, I probably would not have chosen electrical engineering.
Oh, okay. Well, what made you choose it in
But-
the first place, and why would you not do it now?
Well, I knew I wanted to do engineering of some sort.
Yep.
I just like math, sciences,
It's what you're drawn to.
stuff.
It's what you're good
Yeah,
at.
building things. I like that.
Yep.
I think my personality probably would have fit mechanical engineering better.
Okay.
But at the same time, I like learning things as it is.
Yeah.
And so having done electrical engineering, which is one of the hardest engineerings, and I didn't know this, of course. I can go back and learn the mechanical stuff.
Yeah.
I think I would have had a really hard time going back and learning the electrical stuff.
Okay. So it's good that
So-
you learn that skill because you can always supplement with
Right.
mechanical.
Right.
Would have been hard the other way.
Yeah. But I think if I were to do it again, I would have gone into computer science or computer engineering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have, so you knew that that was a good skill set for you. Did you have a particular way that you wanted to apply it?
No. So that was the college just was, I mean, I knew I wanted to do engineering and it was a good degree to have,
Yeah.
but I didn't know what I wanted to do with it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's funny because I think, for a portion of people, it's, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go get a business degree of some kind. And that's almost like when you really don't know what you want. And that's
Yeah.
just a good blanket. But at least when you know, yep, the engineering brain, I need to pick something in this area, this arena. And that is way more than a business degree. An engineering degree of some kind will always serve you because there's always a need, especially because, man, everybody has gone. It could be liberal arts. It could be right. Like everybody's kind of got the useless stuff.
Yeah.
We need engineers of all shades and sizes, shapes and sizes. And
What's
Yeah.
funny is at this point, I think my engineering degree is
you think it gets applied?
no. And the problem now is like, if I were to go try and get an electrical engineering job, I don't think I could get one.
Really?
I have a degree, but I don't have any job experience after that in electrical engineering. And I think, I mean, this is also one of the weird things is that, I say electrical engineering, but no electrical engineering job is the same.
No.
So working for Boeing in an aerospace capacity, I mean, there's even within one company, there's electrical engineers that would work on power systems. So like the power grid that you get your electricity from
that is
versus
totally
the
falling apart,
microelectronics
and
in
we
this.
do need more of them. Yeah.
But like
Right,
they're
versus this.
completely
To-
different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even the classes you take in electrical engineering, your elective classes, there are power electronics classes
Yeah.
and there's microelectronics classes. And
like,
like it's all engineering degrees in general are all teaching you how to learn so that when you go to the job you're trying to get,
yep.
that you can learn
gotta-
what they need to teach you. 'Cause
Right.
They're so, I mean, the expanse of that subject is ridiculous.
Is ridiculous. Well, and that makes sense because my cousin's husband, he might be an electrical engineer. He's setting up all the, not warehouses, all of the data centers
Oh.
in like, what is that region on the Columbia between Washington and Oregon? Because he's in
Gorge
Redmond.
kind of thing, or what?
Yeah, well, maybe, but like he's north of Bend.
Okay.
He lives in Redmond, which is just west of Bend, Oregon. But he goes up, and I mean, those data centers are massive. And you look at the amount of power that's going to be needed for all this AI stuff and
Yeah.
talk about application. That is a
Yeah.
specific application that you need.
Yeah.
You need to know what the heck's going on.
Yeah.
The amount of power that's going to need, by the way, is like crazy. Oh yeah. Brief break. And he's back.
Back. I'm AI is super cool and I'm super excited about it. And
Do you use it regularly? Are you a chat GPTer?
I do use it.
Yeah.
Not regularly, like not on a weekly basis, probably every once in a while.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
But when I do use it, it's the best thing ever is just to create drafts of things.
Yeah.
And then I can save an unbelievable amount of time.
Right.
What makes me laugh is all of these kind of these stock analysts that are like, AI spending is so ridiculous and they haven't monetized it in any way. And I'm like, oh, you wait.
You wait.
It's so useful that I guarantee it will be monetized.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. It's just like I liken it to, Netflix. The draw of Netflix originally was access to a ton of different content.
Right.
On a monthly fee.
Yep.
Just like your TV service.
Yep.
And there were no commercials.
Right. And back in the day, Netflix was still sending you DVDs.
Right.
Right. It was.
But I mean, even once it switched.
Right. Once it switched.
Because now a lot of these services, Hulu, whatever, they've reintroduced ads.
Yeah. Right? Which is a pain in the ass.
Yeah. But it's because that was their incentive to get you away from everything else.
Right.
And now that everything else doesn't exist, I can add ads again because, you're not.
Right. You break into the market with the free gift, with the cool new thing that is less cumbersome than the former thing.
Right.
And then once they've eliminated the former monopoly, they're the new monopoly and they get to do whatever the hell they want.
AI, ChatGPT, Grok, like all of these Gemini.
Yep.
It's free to use at the moment.
Yeah. Although I still pay for my version of ChatGPT.
Right. You can pay for the extra stuff.
Yeah.
But currently it's all free to use. To get one, they need the market to use it to see what.
Right. We are the test subjects.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We're training it.
And
we're
once they figure out how to use it, they're going to charge you for it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm really excited we just watched Iron Man 3 and you're right. Tony Stark has Jarvis.
Yeah.
And he's saying like, just talking like a normal guy, you know what you want me to do, or you know what I want you to do. You want me to operate, you want me to initiate protocol, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, do it. It's like that idea of something that knows you so well that it almost reads your mind and you ask it something and it knows what you mean. I'm fascinated by, ChatGPT itself, right? I've profiled myself and interacted with it enough that it knows how I talk and my cadence and, those different things, my thought processes. And so I'll say, hey, here's for this podcast, I use this program and it has its own AI and it'll end up writing a whole, summary of everything and making chapters and doing all the stuff that would have taken me forever and a half in the past. I still don't like how they write the summary, right? Certainly not in my voice.
Yeah.
It is very repetitive. It's AI. But as soon as I throw it into ChatGPT, and normally I still end up I'll take bits and pieces and I still rewrite my own stuff. But man, ChatGPT has it down pretty good.
Not impressive.
It's so cool. Yeah. So to me, it's going to end up even like YouTube, right? If I need to go change my brakes, if I need to do something, I pull up a YouTube video. Well, how many people are doing that with ChatGPT now?
Right.
Right.
Google now just has the AI summary at the top. So whenever you Google something, my AI summary comes up and 90% of the time, that's what I look at because it's able to sift through all the links I would have had to sift through and just tell me what I wanted to find.
Right.
It's sweet.
It's sweet.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is going to leave quite the wake, what's the saying? It's going to leave something in its wake. That's what I'm going for.
Yeah.
AI. Yeah.
I think in a good way, but there's definitely some scary parts to it and what that means for the world's economy kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
We're starting to get to the point where, before white collar jobs were paid more and more important, right? But now AI isn't coming for the plumber's job. It's coming for the, data analyst or the, computer science stuff where it can program for you.
Right. Well, and until Elon gets all those robots up and running and we all have our own personal robots running around cleaning the house for us and fixing the plumbing and changing my brakes and doing all that. Yeah, my job's in danger because, certainly if I was like a loan analyst or any of that white collar stuff that you are the analyzing something, you aren't going to be needed because I'll still probably go out and build relationships.
Right. That's what it can't do.
Right. It can't do the social aspect. But even that, who knows what life is going to be like in 20 years? I'm always reminded of, it's not that long ago that we couldn't even fly.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about going to Mars.
Yeah.
And there's so many different examples of that sort of thing. We're almost done watching the first Terminator, and Rachel had never seen it before.
Mm-hmm.
And so, she's like, well, what's that guy doing? And who's this guy? And why are they doing it? And I'm like, because AI, it took over and it led to the destruction of humanity.
Yeah.
Right. So we've got the Matrix, we have Terminator, we have all, as soon as iRobot, or even what is that, Ultron in the Marvel movies?
Yeah.
That AI finally goes, yeah, this human thing is, they're the problem.
Yep,
Let's get rid of that. We're trying to optimize. They're not the optimization.
Yeah.
But I kind of had this weird aha the other day of, and I don't even necessarily know how to put it into words, but it feels like as long as it doesn't decide to do that, if it doesn't decide to get rid of us, then yeah, like literally everything should get optimized.
Yeah.
And that sounds pretty good.
Yeah. 100%.
And then you get into debates about things like, well, if it knows what the right answer is on everything, do you still have free will? Right. I mean, then you start to get into the really deep philosophical, spiritual aspect of everything.
I mean, my comment with that is, like you said, in 50 years, if we have robots now that can do your brakes and do your, right? What do you do as a job?
Right.
What's your job? Like, well, if I have a robot that can do everything and it's just power generation that's the issue, like, how do people afford to live? Like, what happens to the market, the working economy? All of it's just turned upside down.
Totally.
And
then do you do something like a universal, what is that? Universal income?
Yeah.
How do you control for the price of things? Because then is it a population control thing? Do we get Wall-E where everybody's lazy and just floating around in their things,
right,
being whatever, lazy potato, couch potatoes? Or does it give us the chance to, I don't have to work, so I'm going to go hiking. I'm going to go mountain biking. I'm going to go spend time with my friends. I'm going to
but what I want to
live in fun.
That totally makes sense. But what about, like, do, billionaires, yachts and all that stuff cease to exist?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because if you're on universal income, then everyone gets the same amount.
Right.
Or,
theoretically.
I don't know how that plays out. Right?
Power always somehow, right? There's getting rid of a hierarchy seems.
But then how do you value, if I'm going to have more kids than somebody else and I need a bigger house, right? How is any of that accounted for?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you said it earlier, right? You get to steer the progress.
Yeah.
And so let's not steer society in the direction of Jackson.
Yeah.
But let's also not steer it in the direction of Seattle. So maybe Coeur d'Alene should just be like the model for how we do society. Yeah, that is a very interesting. I mean, I was going to say, we don't have to figure it out. Actually, we're the generation that probably does have to figure it out.
Right. I mean, at the rate that everything's progressing,
yeah,
I bet it does happen before we're gone.
What would you do? You're in charge, Keaton. How are you? Let's say AI has become sentient or reached all knowledge, or whatever a really good AI is that is helpful. Elon's developed the robots. We've got some colonies sitting up there on Mars. Keaton's in charge. How do you direct society?
Right. To be honest, I have no idea what I would do, because the way the system is now is it rewards hard work, intelligence, those things, right?
Whereas that progress people by them personally and society.
Right.
Yeah. Those are good things.
Yeah. But you take all that away, like, you get to the point where what is a human's purpose altogether?
Right.
And like, maybe it reverts back to just children perpetuating the race.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. I feel like having a purpose of just being children would not be fulfilling.
Yeah.
Like, there's got to be something more than that. And if AI has gotten to the point where it's advancing technology far faster than you would, and it does it better, and it does it I mean, I have no idea.
What
how
is
you
our
approach that.
purpose? Why?
Does it get to the point where you're just like, oh, well, I guess we're going to shut the AI down and make, but you can't do that because there's so many countries around the world. If you don't use it, China's going to use it, and then you're going to fall so far behind that then you're going to be ruled by China and using it anyway.
Right. Yeah. Well, and we are so dependent on the technology we have now.
Oh yeah.
That once you get to that point, I mean, good luck. They just had that weird. I think it's because there's something going on with our atmosphere and the sun and the poles moving and all sorts of other weird sciencey stuff. But Spain and Portugal and part of France lost power.
Oh, interesting.
And like it was chaos and confusion, right? Because everybody's running to the grocery store, but you can't actually buy anything because
you can't keep it cold. Yeah.
Right. Well, and we use digital means to purchase things. Who carries cash anymore?
Right.
And does your cashier even know how to count out your change? Right. I mean, like we are so dependent on anything electronic that you shut any of that off. And it's there's 2 books, and I've been meaning to read them for forever and a half. I think the first one's called 1 Second Later, and the other one's like A Year Later, something along those lines. But he's the author is going down the line of, okay, well, if we huge solar flare, I can't remember what his thing was that made all electronics on the planet go kaput. But if you're dependent on insulin, well, that's refrigerated. And so if you can't produce anymore because you don't have anything electronic to do it, your storage lasts for, not very long. So all of a sudden, all the diabetics on the planet are dying because they aren't getting insulin. And go down the list on all the different kind of medications that is that. Obviously, anybody on a ventilator or anything, anybody that needs surgery, life-saving surgery, like gone. Yeah. And now you get to the food issue.
Yeah.
What do you like? It's just, and I think his calculations are something crazy. Like you lose over 80%, and I'm probably really underestimating that number of the population is gone within a year.
Especially in a city.
City
is absolutely screwed.
Screwed because they're dependent on.
They import all their food.
Everything.
There's not enough land in the city to support all those people.
Right. I remember flying over Seattle, looking down at my house and just going, all those semi trucks, there's a grocery store, there's a grocery store, there's a grocery store, there's a grocery store. You stop that for a week. And sometimes, right, especially on the west side, if you have a winter storm come in and everything's covered in ice and snow, it feels like that. It's snowmageddon. Now multiply that across the country and indefinitely.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I think we might be all right up here because there's enough land around. You can grow stuff and animals that you can hunt and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
are you a hunter by chance?
I am a little bit.
Are you?
I'm not a very serious hunter.
Okay. Yeah. You aren't like every year you've got the whole thing and.
Yeah. And I'm not the stock and track type and whatever. I do it, one, because I'm into guns and I build those and that's fun. And then 2 is it's purely to fill up the freezer with something that I know where it came from.
Yeah.
It's been wild. It's lean. It's not just been pumped with hormones.
Right.
Whatever. So like I'm not out to get any trophies.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of guy that's like,
it's practical.
If there's one of them that's limping, I'm going to shoot that one because it's going to die anyway.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, what's that disease that the deer are starting to spread around?
Chronic wasting disease.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I was just watching another video of that this morning, actually. And I'm like, that thing looks like a zombie deer.
Yeah.
Terrifying. So as long as they're limping, not for that reason, you're good.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You got to make sure you know the right.
Yeah. Although I read, maybe that was listening to Rogan. He was talking about how they have such a hard time tracking it and the way that it's spreading that there's some estimates that, like, if you are eating wild meat, you're probably getting exposed to it at some point, but it doesn't cross over to humans yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll find out. Well, that's good to know. I didn't know that you did hunt. I
haven't in a couple of years since we moved from Wyoming. I'm hoping to this season if I get time.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other nice thing here is it's fairly easy to get tags.
Yeah.
Where with me growing up on the west side, it was nobody that I knew hunted, and getting tags was a pain in the ass anyways. But I've got I've got a collection of guns. So if you ever need a buddy,
All
I'll
right.
go hunting with you.
Yeah, I want to. My father-in-law hunts.
Oh, does he?
And so he
Cool.
hasn't. I think he went out. He went out this last season quite a few times bow hunting. And
Oh, yeah.
he just loves being out there and hiking
it's
around.
beautiful.
And so he either evening or morning goes out and spends a few hours hiking around and
Cool.
trying to find something. And
Did he get anything last season?
no, I don't think so. And he doesn't. He loves it
Just for
do
the
it.
sake of.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if he doesn't get anything, he doesn't get anything.
Yeah, he still had a great time.
I'm the type that I'm like, nope,
At a
I want to
mission?
know where they are, and I'm going there.
That's awesome. Okay, let's hear. I totally diverted us because we were in college. You getting your electrical engineering degree,
Right.
Okay, so you're at college. You're doing that. What? Anything besides the experience of being in college, and maybe we can touch on that a little bit. And getting the degree. What else that has set your life in motion to where you are today happened during that time?
That's an interesting question. During that time, so towards the end of college, I looking for a job.
Yeah.
I'd done an internship or two, and of course, it took till the end of college to figure this out. But applying for jobs, and this is a story I tell everyone, is that I have a friend of mine who went to work for General Motors.
Okay.
And he met the guy whose sole purpose in life was the knob in the GM cars that switches from like park to reverse to neutral to drive, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So he designs it, he checks it, tests it, does all that stuff.
Right.
It's about the button.
Yep.
And I was realizing that in all of these job applications, it was, even if you're working on a rocket ship, you're like, my whole life revolves around this board.
That one widget.
Yeah, the one piece, the tiny little piece. It's like, okay, it's this control board for this subsystem of the rocket. That's this. So,
Right.
And my problem is I'm like, I can't do that.
No.
I need to be involved in a larger picture because the little tiny component,
Repetitive. You'd lose your mind.
I'd lose my mind. And so I realized probably too late at that point that was not what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so I ended up, after college, I went back to Jackson and worked for the family business.
Oh, cool.
For a few years until that went away.
Yeah.
And then we moved up here.
Very nice. Okay. So, and in that, let's hear when did you run into Emily?
So we went to school together in high school and middle school, I believe, partially.
Oh, okay. So, but was she one of those, like, she existed?
Yeah.
But
so she was a year older.
Okay.
One.
Yep.
And I was pretty closed in my circle of people that I knew.
Yeah.
So I didn't really know older and I didn't really know younger. I knew my grade.
Right. You had your peeps.
Yeah. And so I knew who she was. One of the classes I was in had one of her friends, and I took her to one of the dances and that kind of thing. But
Right. Yeah.
aside from knowing her name, that was it.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we reconnected once I moved back to Jackson. I was in Salt Lake skiing.
Oh, that's
and
right.
Social media and whatever. So we ran into each other after that point and started talking.
And then
Then
fireworks and
yeah. So we didn't actually end up meeting the first time I was in Salt Lake going skiing. But then when she came back to Jackson one weekend to visit family, we went out to the Cowboy bar, swing dancing, and just one piece after another after that.
The magic does happen when you take a lady dancing.
Yeah, definitely helps.
Yeah, it definitely helps. So you've got some swing dancing skills in there.
Yep, just a few.
Nice.
I'm not an expert, but I know enough.
Yeah. So I've always said I'm not a dancer. Like that just, I look at I'm always jealous of other people that can move their bodies. And I'm like, nope.
That's why I swing dancing, because
Totally.
I'm 100% with you. I am not the type to go just start dancing to whatever music.
Yeah.
I'm like, nope, I want to know the song.
What are the moves?
What are the moves? And swing dancing
is the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got Rachel swing dance lessons, not this past February, but the February before. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, once you teach me how to do this, I'm game. And like, here's the base and here's some things that you can add on. Oh, and by the way, you can like do creative things in between and you know how to like get back to the rhythm.
Yeah.
And the problem that Rachel and I have is she likes to know like what the plan is. Okay, you're spinning me now, you're doing this. And I'm just, and the rule is that I go behind your back and it's this arm and that. I'm like, we'll get back to it. You just let me spin you and I will get us back to beat one. Don't worry. I'm good.
Yeah. That's the whole lead follow thing, right?
She doesn't let me lead very well. Actually, Emily is very confident. Does she let you lead?
Well, in what, I guess, would be the question, right?
Well, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So dancing, because that's just how it works.
That's how it works.
But there's always there are things in a relationship that one person's better at.
Of course.
Other. And so like, if her bike's not working, that's me.
That's you.
Right. So
yeah,
I think it just depends on
what's going on with it.
And it works out because there's obviously, if it's physical therapy related,
she's the best.
Yeah. I'm going to ask her because I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I always thought it'd be really nice to have like a massage therapist or something as a wife. Like, my back hurts. Can you rub me down? Right. That seems a lot more. I'm getting the getting taken care of, getting fixed.
Yeah.
Versus, oh, your shoulder sore? Well, you need to do this exercise and you got to do, so you just get a direct and I still have to do the work. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
100%. There's no, and there's no sympathy on that end either. It's easier to go to a different physical therapist.
I was going to say,
because
she's probably tough on you.
Oh yeah. There's no sympathy at all. And it actually, I mean, it's kind of that thing of never treat family. She does when it's
of course.
Things, whatever, but I went, with some back issues, I went to Elevated and saw Alex instead.
Oh, yeah.
And it just works better.
It works better.
Yeah. Because if it's your significant other and she's, half in tune because she's trying to work on this other thing on the computer, and you wouldn't do that if it wasn't your significant.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point. Okay. So you, and where in the scheme of things, when did you guys get married?
It was right. What, 6 months before we moved here?
Oh, okay. So you go back to Jackson, you guys are dating, you're working family business until family business goes away.
Yep.
And that was, you said your dad owned a part of the airfield, or what was the?
Well, so the FBO was the business. So it's a former, it's a military term, fixed base operator.
Yep.
But it transferred over into the civilian world.
Yeah.
And it's the people that service corporate aircraft and general aviation aircraft. So fuel, lavatory services, parking, towing, all those kinds of things.
All that fun jazz.
So it's all private aviation.
Yeah, cool. Was there anything because you have subsequently, we talked a little bit, you're building a plane.
Yep, building an airplane.
Did that help along the way? Did you learn anything there, or was that like totally unrelated and you just happened to be?
I would say totally unrelated with, you're talking about working at the FBO?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you weren't doing anything mechanical on a plane, or no.
Other than flying one, there was no mechanical part of the job.
Yeah. Okay. So that's something I'm curious about. How long, because I take it your dad probably had you up in a plane when you were a baby.
Yeah, pretty much.
When did you start flying?
So I got my pilot's license at 16.
Cool.
Yeah, 16 is the youngest you get it, or 17. I forget what it is.
Yeah.
But whenever the earliest you can get it is.
Yeah. Well, and you were probably better than most people that get it in like their 40s at that point, because you've just grown up around it.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think there's a lot to... there's a couple of different parts of flying. There's actually flying the airplane.
Yeah.
With the feel of it and how it all works.
Right.
I think I got that fairly well.
Yeah.
But to be a good pilot, you really need to know all the book stuff, because it's all about monitoring the weather. And because
put you in a cockpit and you can fly.
Give me 10 hours, give anybody 10 hours, maybe a few more than 10 hours.
Yeah.
But just doing laps in an airplane, learning how to land and take off. And like you could fly the plane.
Yeah.
But it's talking to ATC. How am I supposed to talk to them? What do I talk to them about? There's different airspaces. So if I'm going to Seattle versus Coeur d'Alene, it's a completely different scenario. You talk to completely different people. And the approach here, you just kind of show up at the airport, and now there's going to be a tower. But before it was you just communicate with everyone. I'm landing on this runway. In Seattle, man, you could be hundreds of miles away, and they're like, okay, you're going to go to this point and then follow the line and get to this runway. And so there's approach control and tower, and there's all these different.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, if you grow up on the family farm and you can drive the truck around when you're 10, 12 years old.
Right, it doesn't mean you know the rules of the road.
Right.
Yeah.
That's okay. That makes sense.
I think being a pilot at that point is it's a lifelong learning thing.
Right.
Because flying it and then knowing all of the rules and regulations and appropriate procedures is the lifelong learning thing.
Yeah, totally. Well, and that's one of those that kind of freaks me out. Because I had a buddy who worked in a tower in Seattle at SeaTac.
Oh man.
Right. And like, that is a world, right? That's a skill set, and having to monitor, and I can't, and maybe I'm making this up, but it sounded like he felt like their equipment was a bit antiquated. There was something.
Oh, very.
Yeah. And then you read shoot, I swear after Trump got into office again, there was like an aviation disaster every other day.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, what's causing that? And you got the helicopter hitting the plane. What was that, in the Hudson?
Yep.
Over the Hudson. And like all those little things. And you go, okay, especially when you get into larger airspaces that are just, there's so much going on.
Yeah.
You better be on top of your game. Yeah.
Yeah. And part of that is, so within the last, was it 5 years, I guess, or 10 years? They started requiring ADS-B, which, so airplanes have transponders that communicate saying, hey, I'm this altitude, this tail number, or whatever.
Yeah.
But
this is who I am. Here I am.
Yeah. So ADS-B was kind of an addition to that gives way more information. So the original transponder was actually just a code.
Okay.
It's like, as a tower, I'm going to tell you, they say squawk code, and it's a 4-digit code.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's how I identify you on my screen, is I'm like, okay, I know that this airplane is that code.
Yep.
ADS-B, I know how fast you're going. I know who owns the airplane. I know the tail number of the airplane. I know the altitude. I know where you're going.
Yeah.
Like, there's all this information that is now given. And I think that was a good advancement.
I was going to say, I could see that being somewhat overwhelming if that's not what you're used to, but that's a lot of good information that
for the tower controller, it's great.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
A lot of people, a lot of pilots didn't like it because they're like, I don't want you to know all those things about me.
I see that.
Yeah, it was one of those things.
Yeah.
It was very useful because not everyone, so radar, not every airport in the country that has a tower has radar. For example, Jackson is probably the best example of this.
They don't have a radar.
They don't have radar, so they can't see any of the airplanes nearby on their screen.
Right.
It's all visual, talking to them. They tell you where they are, and you just kind of are assuming.
Whoa.
Yeah, and so radar is really expensive.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And now with ADS-B, ADS-B, you can actually have receivers, and there are companies that do this, FlightAware and Flight Radar 24 or whatever, but they'll send you a receiver to put up on your house, for example.
Oh.
And it adds to the ADS-B tracking map, kind of this ad hoc network of a mesh network, so to speak, of everything. So people can add that, and then more aircraft show up where they wouldn't. It was a dead spot.
Right.
So now
it's like putting up many cell towers, and all of a sudden you can use your phone.
So now the air traffic control in Jackson can pull up a web page that shows where all these airplanes are in real time,
and they didn't have to invest in radar.
Right. Yeah.
That's cool. Well, because I'm just imagining I'm very good, and it's probably because I played way too many RPGs. But right, you like go explore a new area, and all of a sudden the map pops up. And I've always been very spatially. My awareness there is really good. Like we had been just east of Seattle by about 45 minutes, a place called Duval. I think I'd visited once, and I navigated my grandparents up there from Portland as a 6-year-old.
Oh, wow.
Because I just like, right, they're landmarks, and I know
You'd be great
the
as
amount
a
of
pilot.
time. Right. And I'm just imagining being in Jackson and going, okay, so we got this aircraft at this altitude traveling this speed, and we got this guy over here. And you're having to like build that model in your head because you don't have radar.
Yeah.
And that,
Yeah.
yeah, that would be, so it's kind of nice that they have
It is. It's
that popping up.
It was necessary.
Yeah, for sure.
It's funny though, flying in Jackson as the pilot, it's very easy to know where you are because of all of the big landmarks.
You're right.
But you fly over Kansas?
Yeah, good luck. Hey, look, it's flat.
It's actually
and farmland.
It used to be a thing. I mean, now there's GPS and everything, so you know where you are.
Right.
But it used to be a thing where if you didn't know where you were, you looked for a water tower and you went and flew around the water tower because they always had the name of the town on it. And so you'd go.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, you'd just be like, all right, where am I? This is okay. We're in.
That's
whatever.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
We're just circling the water tower.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay. Well,
Because
yeah,
all little towns look the same.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, they
flying
do.
over 'em.
Yeah, especially that.
Yeah.
Well, and I take it, and I mean, these are just the sort of things that I don't even, because it's not the world that I hang out in. So you have a map in the cockpit with you, I would assume.
Not anymore.
Not,
I mean,
well, right,
it's
not
all
anymore,
digital,
but back in the
right?
day.
Back in the, well, even fairly recently. So you VFR, they call them sectionals. It's a sectional map.
Okay.
So you, for whatever flight plan you're planning on going on, you're supposed to have the sectional maps associated with that.
Yeah.
Because they're different maps than, it's not like a road map, right?
Yeah.
It's a map that shows, I mean, it shows obstacles, it shows the mountains and altitudes, it shows frequencies for radio communication, it shows all sorts of different things on there. And then they actually look different than, there's a VFR sectional, which is visual flight rules, and it shows you like a topography of the ground and all of these things. And then there's IFR sectionals, which is anything above 18,000 feet. Well, I say that it's not, doesn't have to be above 18,000 feet, but it shows, they call them corridors, but it's routes, air routes.
Yeah.
So, because prior to GPS, they went from radio tower to radio tower. They call them BORs, but you would plug that in and it would say, okay, I have to go here and then I have to go here. And so it wasn't always a direct line to where you wanted to go.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But now with GPS, it's I'm just going to go from here to here. But yeah, you do and did have to have those maps.
Yeah.
But now those maps are all digital. So you still have them,
yeah,
but it's on your iPad.
Oh, yeah, the iPad.
Or whatever avionics.
Yeah. Speaking of widgets, I ran into a guy here at Coeur d'Alene. I was hanging out on tubs. And I've got my shorts hiked up. I look like a mess. I'm sun tanning. The kids are playing in the water, and this guy comes over and introduces himself. And next thing you know, I find out that he used to work for, I think, Alaska. And he's making this widget that converts, because like for military and for commercial aircraft, your flight log is iPad, right? And it sounds like almost everything's iPad.
Yep.
And he would convert something into being able to it was a USB charger. And there's something, and I wish I could remember. It's been about 6 months to a year since I talked to him. Whatever everything had the weird lighting, it would get really, really hot and people would touch it and it was like touching a curling iron. And he goes, the pilots hate it. It doesn't work with the iPad anymore. So I convert this thing and they don't have to cut into the hull. And so instead of doing a full conversion, they can do this cool little widget. And he's like, I'm going to change the world with this thing. And I actually think he got some pretty good traction on it. But just, it's amazing to me how it kind of goes back to the AI thing and technology and just everything in general. There's a way that things were done.
Right.
And there's a more convenient way to do things now. How do you marry the two?
Well, the
and
hardest part
what carries over?
Aviation is getting anything changed.
Oh, good.
Takes
luck.
forever.
Yeah.
Because the FAA, like it's all, I mean.
Well, they're so fast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no bureaucracy and everything else involved.
Yeah. It's brutal to change things. And they have old rules that don't apply anymore.
Don't make
Just
any
like
sense.
the sectional thing. You used to have to carry paper backups for a very long time.
Yeah.
Until, like, even if you had your iPad, you're supposed to have a paper backup.
Right.
Not anymore.
Not
They
anymore.
finally were like, okay,
you got a 24-hour battery life, chances of this thing dying, yada. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so how often do you still fly?
The last time was last summer when I got a tailwheel rating.
What does that mean?
So most airplanes, like all the big airplanes you fly on commercially, are tricycle gears, what they call it, where there's two, just like a tricycle for a kid.
Yeah.
There's two wheels in the back, one in the front.
Okay.
And a tail wheel is the opposite. Two in the front and one in the back.
Yeah.
And the reason there's a specific endorsement for tail wheel is because you can have issues with, it's called a ground loop.
Okay.
It's where the center of gravity of the airplane gets too far out one side or the other.
Oh.
And then it can spin and tip it up on its side.
And then you got a mess.
Yeah. The best example is like if you push a chopping cart backwards.
Yeah.
And you just like pushed it.
Yeah.
It will spin around.
It's going to spin around.
Yeah. And so you constantly have to be adjusting on the rudder pedals to make sure it stays straight.
Yeah. Well, and so do you even want to try and land in a high wind situation with something like that?
Winds make it way trickier.
Yeah.
You can if you know what you're doing.
Well, yeah.
But in general, like for me, for example,
Yeah.
I've done some crosswind landings now.
Yeah.
On a tail wheel, but with the airplane I'm building, the first few times I fly it, it is going to be dead calm.
Yeah. Okay. So that is what you're building. It's,
So I got that.
That's why you got the
wanna
endorsement.
fly. Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So you got that last year, and so you flew. That's the last time that you flew.
Yep. That was the last time.
Nice.
So I'm hoping once I get this one, I just this last week submitted all of the paperwork to the FAA for an inspection.
Oh, you got it done.
Well, so I haven't gotten the inspection done.
Well, no,
It's
but the build.
yes, except
Nice.
for paint.
Okay.
Some
All
things
right.
like
Yeah.
that. But yeah, it's done.
Nice.
basically.
Yeah, because we were talking a little bit about trying to build the molds and get stuff.
Yep, I got all that done.
Yeah. When did you start that process?
3 years ago, April 14th.
Oh yeah. Okay. So I mean, you almost like nailed it to the day.
Yep, pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah. The original thought was to be done in 3 months. Which, it sounds really funny at the moment, but so at the time I had 3 months of, I didn't have a job. Neither did any mechanics at the airport I worked at, because the airport was closed for redoing the runway.
Okay.
And I knew that I wanted to build an airplane at some point in my life. And I was like, this is
Perfect
this is the
opportunity.
chance.
Let's go.
I've got an empty maintenance hangar. I can use the whole hangar. I've got all the tools at my disposal. I've got people that know what they're doing at my disposal.
Yeah.
And so we went from a boxed up crate of parts to basically a complete airplane in 3 months, except for I had not done any of the firewall forward, so any of the engine stuff, any of the avionics stuff, or there were a couple of other little parts and pieces here and there.
I mean, those are all kind of important.
They are, but the airframe, because it's a tube and fabric, so it's a steel structure with fabric over top of it.
Yeah.
And all of that was done at that point. The windshield, it was all done.
Yeah. You just needed the guts.
But it took, the 2.5 years to get the engine, avionics, cowling, all of those things done. Part of that, of course, was those 3 months I was working on it 10 hours a day.
Right.
Every day
You were dedicated to it.
And then once you go back to work, it's a couple hours here and there. And
right. Can I do this? Can I get it in a couple Saturdays this month? Oh, we're busy next month. And then, the progress slows to a crawl.
Way down.
Yeah. Well, and what were some issues that you ran into that you weren't expecting?
Oh my goodness. The list is a mile long.
Oh.
So
it's a good thing you have an engineer brain.
Yeah, right. So it's a kit. And so I kind of assumed that the manual would be pretty explicit,
Right.
and it's not.
No.
So I think there are kits out there where the manual is quite good.
Yeah.
But
not the one you got.
no. And it's interesting because so like the FAA has, they call them advisory circulars, but it's basically a pamphlet of best practices for certain things.
Okay.
And so like they have one that's all the best practices for every part of building or rebuilding an airplane.
Yeah.
And so there are people out there that go just through that of the proper way to do things.
Oh.
And so the manual, there's a lot of the kind of, it doesn't show you a lot of diagrams or pictures. It's kind of like fasten this to this. With what? I mean, what do I
How?
bolt it on there? Should I glue it? What do we?
Right.
But there was a lot of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which, luckily, I had a lot of people around me that knew
Right.
a lot. You know, one of the guys had used to build. He was in the Aviation factory building Huskies, so building small airplanes like this one.
Yeah.
In the previous life, and so that was of great help. He's like, well, I don't know how these guys want you to do it, but here's how we used to do it.
Yeah.
And so I at least know good ways to do things. So I'm not just winging it. Now that I've done one, doing one again would not be nearly as daunting.
Right.
Because I'm kind of like, okay, I get it. I understand a little more of what happened. But
yeah.
I also, because it's experimental, I modified things using, I wanted way more avionics than most people put in a backcountry airplane.
Okay.
And so
what does that look like?
Typically it's a couple of gauges because you're required to have airspeed, altitude, turn slip. There's a couple of others.
Right.
And then I wanted it to be fully instrument capable. So like we talked about before, the VFR, IFR.
Right.
There's a certain equipment that you have to have
to make that work.
IFR.
Yeah.
And I have an instrument rating, and the only way you upkeep your instrument rating is by using it. And
that makes
sense. The only way you can use it is in an airplane that is capable of using it.
It makes sense.
So I thought, okay, well, I'm going to make it so I can use my instrument rating. And it's not an airplane that I would ever fly in inclement weather. It's not meant for that.
Right.
So
it's a nice day. You want to go out.
Yeah. It's just, it really is just for proficiency.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's why the avionics suite is a full glass panel. It's all fancy.
And it's probably really pretty.
I mean, I like it.
Yeah. What color are you going to paint it?
So it's interesting. It's not painted. It's silver.
Okay.
And because it's tube and fabric, historically fabric, you wrap it in the fabric, and it's this like super thick. You know, people hear fabric. Oh my gosh!
Right.
Like, it's not like fabric you would.
It's not
think
your
of.
T-shirt.
No, it's super thick polyester. I believe it's polyester or nylon, one of the plastics. Right?
Yeah.
And then after it's been attached and glued on, then it needs multiple layers of paint in order to UV protect it.
Yeah.
And it's this whole system. But paint's heavy.
Yeah.
And so even on an airplane my size with 2 seats, it's like 20 pounds in paint. So like imagine on a commercial airliner, you're talking hundreds of pounds.
Yeah.
But on this little one, even 20 pounds matters.
Yeah, for sure.
And so there's a fabric system called Oratex.
Okay.
That they pre-treated at the factory to UV protect it.
Yeah.
So they have different colors you can pick from. I picked the silver.
Got it.
But it's pre-treated, which means I don't have to paint it, which saves me time.
Yeah.
And it also saves me weight.
Yeah.
And so it's silver and black.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Gray and black.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the end colors are going to be that. So there will be a little bit of painting on some of the fiberglass parts, but it's just to match the fabric.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah, because you said you still need the FAA inspection, and then I thought you had mentioned painting, and so that's
there's a couple of pieces.
Couple pieces. Painted. What does the inspection look like? When does she become airworthy?
Yeah, that's a great question. From what I can tell, so the inspection is performed either by someone at the FAA, which good luck with that.
Yeah.
Or they call them DARs, Designated Airworthiness Representative.
Oh,
so it's somebody that has been approved by the FAA to do these jobs.
Yeah.
And so someone comes out, they have their list of things they inspect of it must have this, and all of the bolts must be, if they need a cotter pin, they should have a cotter pin, all of these. So they have an inspection list a mile long.
Yeah.
So they come out, they inspect your paperwork. You
Yeah.
have a ton of paperwork.
Oh, I'm sure.
Honestly, insane.
And is the paperwork like here's the blueprint of what I did? What is the paperwork?
No, so I just mean like paper pushing bureaucracy paperwork through the FAA.
All right.
I need, I'm supposed to have built 51% of it in order for it to be experimental amateur built.
Okay.
And so you have to log what you built versus what was given to you from the manufacturer.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of that. There's the build log. I have to apply for a repairman certification so that I can work on my own airplane. There's a million different pieces of paper. But they come out, they inspect all of that. They make sure you have logbooks and an appropriate flight testing plan. And then they do the walk around of the airplane and look at how you did everything. And maybe they make recommendations of, hey, I don't really like how you did this. Here's what I would do.
Yeah.
And the attempt is, of course, to make it safe for you.
Right.
That's the idea behind it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure they don't want it crashing out of the air into some person's home or something crazy.
It really depends on the DAR you get. Because I've heard that
some are great.
Some of them are like, it doesn't matter too much. So they say as long as it flies, it'll be good. And then there's others that are super specific and sticklers about it. So it remains to be seen what that will look like.
Interesting. For some reason, I was like, one of the things I had kind of floating around in my head was, do they fly this, or do they say, "Yep, Keaton, okay, let's see if she get in, let's see if it works." Like obviously all the pre-inspection and walking around and all the other stuff, but then for like the finale, the cherry on top is, all right, get in, let's see if it works.
So yeah, they don't even. So what they do once they've inspected it and signed off, you get a temporary airworthiness certificate.
Okay.
What that means is that you're allowed to operate it yourself.
Yeah.
For a certain period of time. In what they have two phases of flight. Phase 1 is the experimental, like flight testing phase.
Yep.
And then phase 2 is I've completed phase 1. Now I can go to normal operation and have passengers and do all these other things.
Yeah. So it's the permit phase.
Yeah. Basically, you get a permit and then you get your driver's license after a certain period of time.
Right.
And flight testing.
Yeah. Does the flight testing itself, is that, okay, let's go down the runway and get in the air and circle back and land. Okay. And there's phase 1. Phase 2 is now let's get a couple miles, or what, like, how does.
Yeah. So what's funny is the FAA used to just have the regulation was 20 hours of flight time with a certified engine or 40 hours of flight time with a non-certified engine.
Okay.
It was just
strictly time.
Issue.
Yeah.
That has since changed for the better, because a lot of the times people would have either they didn't do any flight testing and they just were flying it for 40 hours.
Yeah.
Right? Or they completed all of their flight testing and did it the right way. And then they just had to burn off time flying circles above the airport, right? Like it's a waste.
Yeah.
And so
and fuel's not cheap.
Right. They modified it so that now the FAA has an example of what they think an appropriate flight testing procedure manual. There's all sorts of different things you have to test. It's for longitudinal stability, and there's procedures you follow to test it, and then you make recordings on how it did, and this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
And so
they don't have barrel roll in there.
No, that's not one of them. Okay. I mean, I guess it would be if you were doing it experimentally. I mean, an aerobatic airplane.
Yeah.
Then you would, that part of it would be, how does it perform upside down?
Yeah.
But so now you can, if you complete your flight testing procedures, you can waive the hour amount.
Cool.
Yeah.
You've checked all the boxes.
Right.
You don't need to do another 20 hours of this.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Which is really nice, because 40 hours is a long time.
That is a long time. It's a work week. Yeah. So then is the goal, or is what you're projecting out, that by the end of the summer, you're going to be fully
I'm hoping before that. It really just depends on when I start my first flight.
Yeah.
Because once I get to that point, I imagine it should progress pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Because it'll be super fun and I
Yeah.
want to go fly all the
It's
time.
the thing you've been waiting to do for 3 years.
Right.
I mean, the
right.
build was a good fun part of it, kind of, maybe, sort of, too.
I
But
did love
getting
it.
up in the air.
Just at the end, I was getting antsy and it was getting old, and I was like, I
Yeah.
want to move on to other projects. I just want to complete this one, and so yeah.
Yeah. So that makes me think of 3 questions. Question number 1 is Emily going to get in?
I mean, she said she would after I complete all of the tasks I need to, right?
She's ready. She's brave.
Yeah. She trusts me. I'm not the type to go just wing it and hope it works.
Yeah. And I take it she's probably been in a plane with you.
She has, yeah. I've scared her a few times, but it's just because one of them was a misunderstanding that she was super worried, and I was like, what? Because it was kind of a normal thing to do in an airplane.
Yeah.
And she didn't know that was normal, so it wasn't normal to her.
Oh, yeah.
And she's like, oh my God, are we crashing? And like, no, everything's fine.
Oh, we're good.
And so
what did you do? Like turn off the engine? Like what?
No, it's called a slip, where you so coordinated flight is where because you have the rudder and the wings.
Yeah.
Coordinated flight is where the rudder and the ailerons, like, you're working together.
Okay.
So you're kind of always going, I want to say forward. It's not forward, but they're coordinated together.
Okay.
A slip is the opposite. It's uncoordinated. So where I do the opposite thing with the rudders I'm doing with the wings.
Uh-huh.
And what you can do with that is you can lose altitude really quickly.
Right.
So if you need to bleed off altitude, you can get into a good slip, method. And you're like sliding at an angle with the wings.
Cool.
It looks kind of weird.
Yeah.
And it feels
kind of weird.
But
you freaked her out.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this is perfectly normal. You're safe. Don't worry.
She was fine. After that, I mean, once she flew with me a couple of times, she was fine.
She was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then what do you love about flying?
That's a tough question. I mean, there's a lot of facets that I really like. So obviously family wise, aviation was a big part. And even so my godparents, my godfather is Frank Christensen, who he designed and built the Christian Eagle and the Aviat Husky, or the Christian Husky.
Yeah.
Christensen.
Which, if anybody listening, go Google those. They're awesome.
Yeah, the Christian Eagle, that's one of my goals in life, is to own one at one point.
Yeah.
It's an aerobatic biplane, super fun. It's got the 80s vibe because it's got the multiple, like it has an eagle painted on it, but it's that like rainbow colored 80s vibe.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I, of course, love the kind of family history of it. And then I also love the mechanics of it. I'm a mechanical person. And so all of the parts and pieces of an airplane are cool, whether it's a jet or it's a biplane or, whatever. It's all interesting. And then flying itself, it's just the freedom of being able to go places quickly.
Yeah.
So backcountry flying with this airplane, I should be able to, let me rephrase that. The airplane should be able to land and take off in less than 100 feet.
Oh, kick ass.
And it's got big tires. And so I should be able to land anywhere that I've got, 100 feet of space.
Yeah.
Which is cool because you can go out, and Idaho is probably second best to Alaska. It's very aviation friendly. There's tons of backcountry airports. So you can go camp and go play and go land pretty much anywhere and explore.
That's cool.
Super cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's amazing.
But then even
for some reason, I thought that might be restricted.
So in a lot of states it is.
Okay.
In Idaho is one of the few, so National Forest in Idaho tends to allow off airport landing.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like Wyoming, Bridger Teton, they have specific regulations against it.
Okay.
So you can't.
Okay.
But Idaho is pretty aviation friendly, and it actually has state funded backcountry airports. So a lot of these airports are state funded, so they're They've got a beautiful
They're all
grass
for it.
in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I've been to a couple of places around here, and you would actually be really surprised at how many runways are within 75 miles of here, or
Yeah?
50 miles of here. So there's one over in it's called McGee, which is kind of south of Ponderay,
Okay.
and east of Hayden,
Yeah.
in the forest there.
Yeah.
And to get there by vehicle is a couple hours.
Right.
To get there in an airplane is like 20 minutes.
Oh, cool.
So there's a lot of that. And
Yeah.
then there's tons of little air park communities around here. There's maybe 4 or 5 different runways that are just super close by.
How is there like some kind of, is it a flag color, or is it what indicates to you, yep, I can land here? This is
Well, if it's private property, then
contacting the landowner and saying, hey.
yeah, so it's hard because you have to be really careful. If it's public land, I mean, if it's any land, you have to know the regulations. So like Kootenai County passed some rules saying that to have a runway, you have to have a certain distance from neighboring areas and all this stuff. Right? Yeah. And then National Forest, even if you don't look it up and there's a specific ordinance against it, so like you have to know for every place you're planning on landing, you kind of have to research it and know. So in Idaho, is it okay to land in National Forest or not? Also, there's more than one National Forest. So is this one the same as that one?
Right.
Yeah.
So it's the pre-planning. It's not like just being up in the air and being like, well, that looks like fun. Let's land over there.
Yeah. I mean, technically you can do that as long as no one's around, but
right.
But yeah, you're not supposed to.
Okay. All right. I totally cut you off earlier though, trying to think of where we were going.
We were just
but that was why it's awesome.
Oh, it was about the so even if it's not a backcountry airplane and you're just in a faster kind of transportation airplane, it's now for a weekend, like I can fly to Seattle for a day, and come back, and I've done that before in Jackson. So Salt Lake City is a 5.5 hour drive, and so for a day you just fly down to Salt Lake and go out and go
putz around,
go shopping and go out to eat and then get back in and fly home.
That's awesome.
That's just a lot of good freedom.
Freedom's a good theme there. I like that. Do you, besides Emily, like, do you go fly with your dad? Was your mom ever into it? Is there, or do you enjoy being by yourself up in the plane? What's the social dynamic like?
So my dad's a pilot and flies his own plane now. So I fly with him when we do that. Right? I think, what I enjoy out of it is not really going by myself. I like sharing it with other people. And so one of the things I've realized with this airplane is that I already want a bigger one. Because with this airplane, I can really only take one person, and that's going to be Emily. And so it would be so fun to have a 4-seat backcountry airplane where you can take friends to go camping at a backcountry airstrip.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. So I like sharing it with other people. That's the fun part for me. Because going by yourself, it's like anything by yourself. If you want to go camping by yourself and drive out and go camp, and it's not as fun to me.
Yeah, maybe
there's some people. Some people really like the self-reflection time,
right?
And my self-reflection time is when I'm out in the shop working on something.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Because we definitely need our alone time, but when and where is that where you dig it? Yeah, in the shop. Well, and that was the other thing that I the way that I imagine things is funny, because I think of like, I don't know what you have, a 2 or 3 car garage, but I'm like, they ain't fitting their cars in there. He's got a plane in there. So were you at the hangar, and where were you building this?
No, so we have a shop in the backyard.
Oh, you have a shop. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. There's, when we were moving here and we were looking at houses, we were kind of, I really wanted a shop.
Yeah.
But it wasn't quite a deal breaker. And then once we got a house with a shop and moved in, we quickly realized that it would have been a deal breaker.
Oh, it would have been a deal breaker.
It was a necessary thing because, we have so many hobbies. We like the mountain biking and skiing and paddleboarding, and
you need room for those toys.
You need room for those toys. And I have tools to work on all sorts of stuff, and you got to have room for the tools too.
Yeah.
And so it quickly adds up.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the biggest house we've ever been in, and it has maybe the least amount of storage space. And I want to be able to fit my cars in the garage, but I also need room for all the toys and access to my toolbox and it's just, it's the worst. I want to shop so badly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of the older houses, I mean, just think about master closets, where a lot of older houses, the master bedroom had the little closet like you would see in a guest bedroom.
Right.
And I don't even know, like, where did people they must have just had a bunch of dressers, right? Like
they must have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or pre-1950s, most houses were one bathroom.
Yeah.
I don't know how that worked.
Yeah. I don't either.
Yeah. My father-in-law, he's one of, I'm going to get this number wrong. Rachel's going to make fun of me. Somewhere between 6 and 8 kids. I think they grew up in a 3-bed, 1-bath house. And I'm like, I just don't, you're on top of each other and you got sisters and they're like, I mean, just that fight in the bathroom alone.
You'd be real friendly with your family, I guess.
Yeah. Just open door policy in the bathroom.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. That is a lot of fun. You have a lot of fun. And a lot of them are high adrenaline, I would imagine.
Yeah, it seems that way, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Rock climbing, and I mean, I kind of am a speed guy. I like going fast.
Yeah.
And so skiing, I can go fast. Mountain biking, I can go fast. Climbing, not so much. It's not really a speed sport, but it's and I don't do it much anymore either. I haven't had much time, but that it's like a puzzle.
Right.
Which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Because you can, especially there's some bouldering. It's really entertaining when you go to a climbing gym that has someone really creative that puts the bouldering routes up.
Yeah.
Because it's so rewarding when you try this route. You're trying it, you can't figure it out.
Right.
And then you watch someone else do it and they do it a completely different way. And you're just like, wow, okay, well, let me try that.
Yeah.
You try it and it works.
Yeah.
Wow. That was weird because it's just how you moved your body or what position you were in so that's fun. I like that part of it.
Yeah.
But in general, I'm a speed junkie.
Yeah. I was shocked when Emily was like, yeah, I actually like the uphill portion of mountain biking. I'm like, you might be sick in the head. Nobody likes the up. She is.
Yeah. She likes the uphill of everything.
Yeah.
Backcountry skiing, that's her favorite part.
Yeah.
Yeah. I for the longest time really hated the uphill. Now I
appreciate
it.
Yeah. Okay.
Appreciate it is a good way to do it. But it was weird because it was a little backwards, is that she used to not like the downhill so much. Because she had an older mountain bike that didn't have a dropper post on the seat and some of these other things.
Yeah.
That once we got her one that did, I just remember the first ride. She was like, "Oh my gosh, that was so much fun!"
Yeah,
because it was better and easier and felt safer and
and it feels like that that you two even each other out.
Yeah,
compliment each other.
She makes me open work for it a little more.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, and that's good too. And that I do like is if I just get the reward, I really earn this. I gotta. There's something about the struggle first. I mean, it's almost like the rock and why is that all of a sudden out of my head? Rock climbing, right? I've been trying this and it's not working. Oh, that's how you do it. Oh, yeah.
Right.
Okay,
get a little more satisfaction.
Yeah, there's more satisfaction there. That's cool. Okay, so I'm gonna bring this in, and Emily's probably gonna be like, "Yes, thank you for bringing it up," or maybe she'll be terrified that I did. What's the kid plan?
Well, there is a plan.
There is a plan.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, I don't know if we're ready to quite reveal it yet.
Okay. All right. Okay.
It's on the books. Let's put it that way.
It's on the books. Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
What would your ideal number be?
I personally am kind of the one and done.
Oh, one
idea.
and done. Yeah.
But I think there are some valid points. Emily likes the idea of 2 because they can entertain each other.
Yes.
And I have talked to a couple of people that they 100% said 2 is way easier than 1. Maybe not for the first year, right? Because you've got a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old, and that's a nightmare. Right?
Yeah, diapers.
But
and
once you
dual car seats.
Once you get past that point where they're a little bit older and they can entertain themselves, then you have more freedom.
Yeah, it's true. Well, and she has a really good relationship with her sister, right?
Yeah.
You get a built-in best friend.
Right.
Yeah.
And one that, it's one of those, like, for better or worse, they're your best friends. It doesn't matter what happens. They're there for you kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think some of that is like shared experience.
Yeah.
Right. You both grew up in the same environment and you're doing a lot of the same things together. And so like I have 3 younger brothers, and it's just fun to get together, and inevitably there's do you remember when you did this? Or that's not how that happened. It was more like this. And it's just like there's this fun banter that goes back and forth, and it's
all the war stories.
the war stories. Yeah, because like the brother just below me, I was just telling my oldest, there was times where we're having a great time together, or he might have a pair of scissors and he's trying to plunge it into my chest. Right? Yeah. It's like, I'm really glad we're past that stage and nobody died. But yeah, one is great. And our oldest is awesome. And I know he'd be different if he was an only child, but he's just an awesome kid. But then once you have 2, and then like if there was a 3rd, if there was a 4th, if there was an 8th, it's just chaos and confusion.
And it just doesn't.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. You could have it. The number doesn't matter at that point.
I think I draw my limit at 2, just because after 2, logistics get really difficult. And what I mean by that is, with 2, there's still 2 parents, so you can like 1 kid per parent kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right? And
you can strap them on your back and still be skiing.
And the car.
Oh man, the car thing.
That's a huge one. Like, if you have more than 2 kids, you got to buy a way bigger car.
Yeah, tell me about it. When I traded in my sedan, because we were having number 3, and I'm like, we're not fitting car seats and booster seats across the back of a sedan. I wanted a 4Runner, and I guess there was an SUV in between the sedan and the 4Runner, but that one had a 3rd row. When I was looking at 4Runners, I knew I wanted 4Runners. Well, they don't make all models with a 3rd row.
Yeah.
You either get the base or the top. You don't get the middle.
Yep.
And I'm like, I want a TRD. I want the fun offer. Like, I want the cool one. Oh, they don't make a 3rd row.
Yeah.
And then trying to find a used 3rd row, it was like, there's 3 in the state. Okay. All right, fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah. So that's where the limit of the 2 comes in. It's just the logistical.
Yeah, and you're out of diapers way sooner. Every time we would get out of diapers with one, we'd have the other one. It's like, we're starting the cycle over again. Really?
Yeah.
And the bottles and the baby food and babies are my favorite thing, but damn, is it some work?
Yeah, that's the part that so we of course have a niece.
Oh yeah.
Are about to have another niece in September, I think it is.
Oh, cool.
But the first one is almost 2, another couple months left.
Yeah.
And she is the smartest little thing.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
In what way?
Well, so I don't really have any reference. I've never been around babies my entire life.
Yeah.
So like Myra, my niece, was the first baby I've ever held.
Yeah.
And now the other night at dinner, I went on a little walk with her, going out, holding hands, and she was like pointing at stuff and like, what's this? What's this? And she's
inquisitive.
Yeah. And I'll answer, and then she repeats the word, and then she goes on to the next thing. And like, she is, I guess it's so, her mom plays the pointing for where she points at something and either asks what it is or tells her what it is. And like, they just keep doing that. And so she knows way more words than you would expect for someone. A
2-year-old.
And not even 2. I mean, let's see, middle of June is her birthday.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, she's crazy smart.
Yeah.
And way ahead when it comes to communicating. And so her mom did sign language with her when she was really young.
Yeah.
And so she couldn't speak, but she knew
Everybody's doing
and
more.
milk
Yeah.
she knew all those things.
Juice and
She's fun.
Yeah. Well, and you're at that fun stage with that too, where because it's niece, like, this is fun.
Yeah.
Have them back.
But
it's starting to cry. Can you? Yeah.
Hanging out with her a little bit though has definitely made me more like, okay, because for the longest time, kids are just terrifying. And so kind of like, man,
terrifying from like oh my gosh, I'm going to break this thing perspective, or what kind of terrifying?
No, more of the amount of work required and life change,
the responsibility,
and all of those things. That's terrifying, daunting.
Yeah.
But once you interacting with my niece definitely has been okay. I could do this.
Yeah.
The good parts are worth it.
Totally. Yeah. The good parts are worth it. Oh my gosh. So one of my favorite things is just how every single one of their personalities are different, right? Like, I've got 4. They're 4 very unique people.
Yeah.
And I'll look at my wife and go, are you sure our genes mixed together to make this thing? Because I don't know where this came from. Yeah. And so there's all sorts of fun dynamics. And like my oldest, I thought I was going to get, because I love sports. I love playing them. I love watching them. I love games. I love being there's all sorts of stuff that I love that I thought, I love comic books, right? Like, I'm going to mold this kid and I'm going to have a little buddy.
Mm-hmm.
No, there was no sports. There was there was a little glimmer of a window there during the Seahawks Super Bowl runs. Thank you very much. Where he would sit and like watch a football game with me or like look cute and wear a Seahawks jersey. Once he had the choice, zero interest, didn't care. So I'm like, we have this little thing that I'm like, what the heck am I doing with this kid?
Yeah. 6,
7, 8. Okay. He's going to get fun at some point, isn't he? Like, and I'm making that sound more brutal than it actually was. And then during COVID, he picked up the drums. And he's better than I am now, which is kind of irritating. But it's so cool because you just get to watch this person learn this amazing, like, express this talent. And it's so inspiring to watch how that happens and watch them develop. It's really, right? Like, play the point game. It's the way that they get to learn how to interact with this reality that we're in is really cool. And you get to help shape it.
Yeah.
But then there's I always hold on to these stories of like, oh yeah, you're glad you don't have kids yet. Well, let me reinforce that for you.
I don't know if I want to hear this story.
Buckle in, sit down. You ready? Sunday, I'm filling out an intake form. I look at my digital wallet because I need to enter my credit card information on this intake form. And I see all these charges on my credit card. I'm like, $120, $60, 25, another 160. What? Somebody got a hold of my card. And I look at what the charges are for, and they're for a mobile game.
Oh, no.
And I go downstairs. I start showing Rachel. I start adding it up. It's $1,216
on a mobile game
in less than a week.
Oh my God.
And as we're looking at it, there's more charges coming through. So Rachel runs upstairs, grabs our 2 middle boys, because the game that this was tied to is the one that they play, brings them down. What are you guys doing? One of them's freaking out, because he doesn't know what's going on and he wasn't the culprit, but he just knew something bad was happening. And he's like, it wasn't me. To the other one's credit, he goes, it wasn't him, it was me. and I'm still like, there's different parental reactions to things. Are you going to be a spanker? Are you not? How are you going to discipline? All that fun jazz. I was in so much shock and actually kind of impressed that I'm like, you're going to get punished. I just don't know how right now, because 12, how and why? And you can't dispute something like that because it's a legit charge. Yeah. And so.
I mean, your card was stolen, right? Are they unauthorized? I don't know.
I'm going to it's tied to the Apple ID and it's all that stuff. Maybe I should try and fight it. But well, and he's going to learn a lesson on paying back debt at a young age.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm going to help shape
chores there.
Yeah. So if you need weeds picked
Oh,
or
okay.
anything like that, you let me know, because
all
I've
right.
got a little slave right now. So there are moments like that, but I mean, it's going to end up being a funny story, and it's a teaching moment in its life.
Right.
Yeah. So, but for future reference, make sure that you don't let
set it up so that
they don't have access.
Yeah.
And actually, this brings into kind of a broader question, because you said parents were Catholic, but you guys didn't really get raised religiously. One of the main questions I think we all at some point end up asking are, what are we doing here? Where did we come from? Where are we going? What's this whole life gig about? What's your conclusion? What have you come to?
I don't know that I've ever made a definitive conclusion.
Okay. Yeah.
But I kind of ascribe to the more of the Big Bang Theory kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That it's all organized chaos.
Organized chaos.
Yeah.
Yep. I actually have that tattooed on me. Some organized chaos. Yeah.
Yep.
That's a good theory.
Yeah, it's pretty much.
Yeah.
I don't know. That there isn't really not to be all, what is it? Nihilism?
Yeah.
Right. Not that that's the answer, right? But that there isn't really a definitive purpose for.
Yeah. So then how does that, or does it inform your approach to life?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because I feel like a lot of super religious people say that, oh, well, if you don't believe any of these things or follow the rules here or whatever, that you're a bad person. Or, for example, if there's no fire and brimstone, there's no consequence for doing what you're doing,
right?
Then why would you do it or not do it?
Yeah.
And I mean, I disagree with that point entirely.
Yeah.
Like there's ways to have morals without following a script in front of you.
Totally.
And it's all about, like, maybe that's an ultimate consequence, but there's still consequences in your daily life of doing things or not doing things.
Yeah.
So, like, societal consequences. Society has developed what morals should be.
Right.
Where it's, okay, if you steal something, you go to jail. That's a consequence.
Depending on the state and the dollar amount.
All right, if you murder somebody, yeah.
Sorry.
But that's, there's ways to have morals without believing that you're going to go to hell otherwise.
Totally. Yeah. And that was one of my, because I was brought up religiously, and we were raising our kids that way. And one of the first things I had to tackle when we stepped away from religion was, okay, hold on. I know my morals were shaped from this,
right? But
they weren't just shaped by this. And if you remove that piece,
what are they now?
Yeah. How does that work?
Yeah.
And I, it's funny because I almost think you can have more nihilism on the religious side than an atheistic view, or agnostic, or whatever, however you want to title it. Because if you're just here, there's nothing before, there's nothing after, you just, like, we're riding this ride right now.
Live in the moment kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a live in the moment, being present, and almost more awareness for your consequences in the here and now.
Right.
And so I think that's a beautiful thing. But I also understand why somebody from a religious perspective can look at that and go, well, how? Right? Because they like being able to dance around in other people's thought processes is really fun.
Yeah.
For this.
Yeah.
Because I think it might have been Carl Sagan. I think it was I know it was either him or his wife that said, there's nothing after this. And so we just, like, we savor every moment together. And we're so grateful that we had the time together that we had.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's a really kick-ass way of looking at that.
Which I do think that you can get lost in the super religious side of things where, the end goal is heaven. And so what you're doing is to get to heaven, kind of a thing.
Right.
And maybe you don't stop to smell the roses because like if this is what you believe, you were put here,
right?
So like you might as well enjoy it. The whole heaven on earth thing.
Totally.
It's a pretty cool place to be.
It is a pretty cool place to be. Well, and you've been able to experience some really beautiful beautiful areas, beautiful people. Yeah. And then you look at the history of everything too, and you go, oh, you kind of had to like shape the peasants into doing certain things and making their lives not feel so miserable. There's a reward at the end.
Yeah. There's definitely some, that's like the I forget what the author was, but he was an author prior to developing Scientology.
Oh, L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he was quoted prior to that of saying that the real money is in religion, and then developed a religion entirely based around money.
Yeah. It's not a bad gig.
Yeah, but it's those kind of things of like, I don't know, giving people a purpose where there was none.
Right.
Is a great way. And like you said, is kind of maybe prior to laws.
Right.
It was almost like telling your children the boogeyman's going to get them, right? Like if I can't supervise you all the time,
I need to put something
here's
in
the
place.
set of rules, and it's not going to be me that punishes you. It's going to be God that punishes you.
Right.
Like, oh boy, you can see everything, so I better do this right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Well, and then from bringing back in that nihilism piece, there's almost that like, I'm curious how they don't develop almost a self-hatred, like I'm unworthy. And just, if that was my mindset all the time, then
that would be hard.
Yeah. And I can make the counter argument, right? So like anybody that's listening, man, Brandon's great. No, that's what's so fun about this is they all work. I was at a bonfire Friday night, and that's kind of what I was working through with that group of guys was there's truth in everything. And like, I don't know if there's a truth, but there's something beautiful in the way that and people ultimately, I think we want good things. And so like, how do you get there? And how do you want to be a good person?
Yeah.
One of these days I have a feeling I'm going to interview somebody that's like a total psychopath. Where you're like, okay, so they do truly want bad things. And like, how does your brain get there? But that's not how the vast majority of people operate.
Right. Well, some people need all the structure and some people don't.
Well, and I've read this stat multiple different times, and there's, I think this is actually low, but the latest version of the stat that I saw is that 50% of people don't have an internal dialogue. And so to me, an internal dialogue is that like back and forth, right? It's well, what about this? Well, okay, but you got to consider this thing. Okay, well, yeah. And if you consider that, then you got to consider, right? Like it's that internal debate going on.
Yeah.
And if I don't have, if there's 50% of the people in the world that don't have that,
they need it written down in front of them.
They need it written down. They need the boogeyman. They need those guardrails put in front of them because they don't have the wherewithal to be able to debate themselves.
Right. What are the consequences of doing what I want to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that helps maybe explain a lot of the world too. What are we dealing with? Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I know we have a time frame that we got to get you out of here. And so we have a little bit more time. And so I could take us a couple different directions. Do you have a particular, what's something that we haven't touched on that makes Keaton?
I don't know. Kind of like the just random tangents.
The random tangents are fun, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great to go down.
Yeah. Okay, let's hear. I had one that I was formulating, and now do you have a random? Oh, actually, I do have one. Ha. Okay, tying in flight and all this stuff, and I brought up Elon a couple times. Do you end up watching stuff like that, seeing the way that he's developed SpaceX, and going, "Oh, that's kick ass"?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's insane. I mean, I don't know how someone can do. So there was a great example of Jensen Huang, who's the CEO of NVIDIA.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
One of the backbones of this whole AI revolution thing.
Yes.
Right. He was in an interview talking about how Elon Musk in what do you say it was? 19 days? Is it 19 days? Or 9 days? I don't remember the time.
Something super short.
Super short. That he said that Elon Musk set up the entire network infrastructure with the new NVIDIA GPUs for the AI data center in like this super short, less than a month. Yeah. And Jensen Huang was like, there is one person in the world that can do that, and that's him, because most people it would take a year or more to do that. And he was just like, he did it in less than a month. And the fact that the CEO of NVIDIA, who has
he's already accomplished.
Well, and he was the one that, like, he's the original CEO and has been a part of developing the whole thing.
Yeah.
He did not include himself in that list of the one person, right?
Right.
So he's like, I couldn't have done it.
Yeah.
Only this guy could. And that speaks volumes. But the fact that he's run a bunch of different companies, and he's, the one that kind of blows me away is SpaceX, that he figured out how to monetize, because you can't, how would you develop a company whose goal was to go to Mars?
Right.
Without having some reason to go to Mars.
Totally.
And it can't just be that, we're going to save the human race by doing this.
Right.
I'm like, okay, great. But why would I give you my money now? I'll be dead before that matters.
Totally.
And so instead, he developed Starlink, which is
awesome.
And it's better satellite internet than had been around ever.
Right.
It's awesome. It's provided internet to parts of the world, and even parts of the U.S. has pretty good infrastructure, but there were still parts that didn't have any.
Right.
And so now you can have internet anywhere in the world at really good speeds.
Yeah.
And
do you have one, by the way?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I want one.
I don't really need one.
No,
I'm in a town, city, whatever. But
yeah, with that backcountry landing that plane, you might.
Well, it's funny. There's a guy, Trent Palmer, on YouTube, has a backcountry pilot and has tons of great content. But he installed a Starlink in his airplane.
Oh, he did.
He can do while he's moving.
Well,
Wi-Fi.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just always amazed at when, there's the comparison of the first rocket versus where he's at now. And how some people thought it was fake and then like people scrambling to catch up, because how do you go from this thing that looks like a mess, frankly, to something that looks so streamlined and works so well? And I'm still somewhat, there's a part of me in the back of my head that goes, this is all AI. Like, this is all CGI'd. There's no way something is catching these rockets out of the air. Like, that looks fake.
I love it. So beyond the fact that he developed Starlink, he figured out the problem with rockets, and the problem with rockets prior to SpaceX is that they were expendable. So every dime you put into that original rocket, gone. But now with this whole catching system and the landing and everything, I can take the most expensive part of the rocket and reuse it.
Yeah. You'd think somebody would have tried to solve for that sooner.
I would say it's a pretty, I don't know how many rockets he's blown up at this point, but it's a complicated task.
Yeah. That combination of shit ton of money, and the one brain on this planet that can organize something and connect all the pieces to make that thing work that way.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. He was the right guy.
And it's tough. Because the rocket, the reason or how it does it is like a whole lot of this thrust vectoring and whatever. And so it's like the game you play where you're trying to hold up a pole with your hand.
Right. Yeah.
And you're doing that, and there's so many adjustments going on versus, an airplane that has wings where I can actually stabilize it and things.
Right.
But you can't add those to a rocket because they cause too much drag.
Right.
And so you have to do it a different way. And doing it with the thrust vectoring is super hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So from engineer brain, is there a piece of that you get to, because like I look at it and I just go, well, that's cool. Do you get into some of the minutia there and go, oh, that's how they solved that?
Yeah, sometimes. I wouldn't say I follow along close enough with
right.
with it to really get into detail, but
Yeah.
it is super cool to see like their new, I forget what they call them, the Dragon, whatever, the new engine,
Yeah.
and get a tour of how they do certain things. And you're just, wow, this is wild.
Yeah. It is pretty wild.
Yeah.
I think we have 2 windows coming up over the next, I'm probably going to be off here like 5 years, that are ideal times to get to Mars, right? Like, so the first one, he's supposed to launch supplies or something to get up there, but not manned.
Yeah.
And then the second one will be manned. Would you, and probably because you've got Emily and other stuff, but if you were single, if it was just you, would there be any interest in going to Mars?
When would be the question. So like, yes, if certain circumstances have been met, right?
Well,
Would I go the first trip where there's nothing there? No, that would suck. I mean, you're on a rocket for what? I think it's like 6 months before you can even get there.
Right.
And that's only when the window appears, right? Because once you're there, that window's gone and you got to wait for the window again.
Yeah.
In order to make it a 6-month trip back.
Right.
And so, yeah, there would not be a whole lot to do while you're there.
No, you're putting stakes in the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once it's been terraformed and like there's buildings and atmosphere and whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd go.
Yeah.
That would be cool. I love that. There's a TV show called The Expanse.
Oh, I've seen it. But I've never watched it.
Yeah, it's a sci-fi show, and one of the things I really like about it is that it's based kind of in our solar system and within the bounds of what space travel can currently accomplish.
Right. So we aren't going like galaxies away and doing stuff.
So it's not, they involve gravity. What I mean by that, I guess, is like acceleration of the rocket. They can only accelerate so fast, otherwise it will crush them.
Right.
And then on the other end, they have to turn around and decelerate so that they can, because you have to slow down before you can get there. And there's no air resistance or anything else. If you don't, then you just keep going at that speed.
Yeah.
And so and it takes a lot of time to get from one place to another because you can only go so fast. And whatever. I just love that it's a show that actually kind of follows the physics.
Right.
Yeah, there's parts of it that aren't accurate.
There's some, yeah.
Like, I don't know where they get their fuel from and how the propulsion works, but
right.
Yeah.
We'll suspend belief and
right. It follows pretty closely. But
yeah.
they build these crazy structures on Jupiter's moons that it's some sort of a dome that has atmosphere inside of it, so you can do things. But I kind of envision. I love that.
Yeah.
So envisioning that on Mars and going and doing that would be cool.
Well, and is that because I've been curious about that. Is that the plan, is to terraform under a dome or whatnot on Mars? Has that been let out yet, or is that more of an assumption?
Well, I think the issue is there are multiple ways to do it.
Yeah.
And how should it be done? And also who regulates that?
Right.
Is the US just going to claim Mars and like it's ours? Unless you can get there, you can't claim a part of it?
Well, if I was Elon, I would just claim it for me. Like,
right?
Who I got us there, and it's mine.
He's going to own
Mars is mine.
He colonized it.
Yeah, I'm the richest man, plus I have my own planet.
I mean, I could see it, right?
Yeah.
You can't lay claim to it until you've... I don't know.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I wonder what his flag will look like.
Yeah.
Mine, right? Just stick it in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the terraforming is, it will have to happen.
It'll have to.
But the funniest thing is the easiest way to terraform it is to like set nukes off.
Seriously?
Yeah. Of the little I've read, there are a couple ways to do it, but like nuking the planet is one of them. The problem is how long it takes.
Fascinating.
So like you have to nuke it in the right spots with enough, and then I don't know all of the science, right? But it creates the boundary layers, and then you can actually fill it with oxygen. But
that's cool.
But if you set off nukes, there's radiation, right?
Right.
So
and you gotta
you still have to wait for the radiation to dissipate.
To go away.
And then, so that's the fastest way. Which, imagine that. Then you're talking about what, 50 years before it's even inhabited.
Totally.
Or more?
Yeah, the Elon ain't waiting for that.
Well, yeah. So I'm sure it's going to be, they're going to build some sort of a structure on there
Yeah.
And then,
well, then if that expands out fast enough, then you can't nuke the planet to terraform it the other way because you already got structures and
I mean, my guess would be that
civilization.
you would set up a base there, then nuke it, and you could still just use the base and have it radiation protected. And you're waiting because it has to be terraformed for humans to use it.
Right, totally. Unless we're all just living in pods while we're
but I don't think forever. Like economically,
it doesn't make any sense.
Like how much material are you going to have to shuttle across to Mars?
I always have Matt Damon in The Martian.
Oh, I love that. It's a great movie.
That movie's so good.
Yeah.
Like, okay, potatoes and ketchup. Oh, now I'm out of ketchup and now I'm out of potatoes.
Yeah.
What do I do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's something I suppose I should look into because I don't know what's in the soil and what kind of nutrients. Because that's one of the problems that we're running into, right? Is we've our mass agriculture has destroyed a lot of the soil nutrients, bioavailability.
Just in the interest of trying to produce more faster. Because if you like there's the whole, I forget what they call it, but the like the environmentally friendly farming, but I don't know. There's a certain term for it.
Yeah.
But where if you responsibly do it and you rotate your crops accordingly and you use the animals.
It's regenerative farming.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then you can continue to grow and make the soil back to what it was.
Right.
Versus using every bit of the soil you can
and blasting it with chemicals.
Now you're in trouble because you can't revert that process.
Exactly. Yeah. There's and it's so amazing that we've gotten. There was a documentary that I watched where some people went. There's some orchard in California that you could tell had just been raped, and was like a dust bowl more or less. And a family went in there, did regenerative farming, and now it's this like oasis, and it's just beautiful. Cool. And Rogan's had on a couple guests that do regenerative farming. Like, this is how we did things for thousands of years since we've farmed. We've used the animals and their byproduct to, grow these things. And then we feed it to it's this cycle that totally makes sense. And now we come in here and say, yep, let's just spray it with this stuff and get it going as fast as we can and do it all over again.
I do really like hydroponics, though. I think that's so cool.
Hydroponics is really cool.
Yeah, the fact that I mean, you can grow stuff. There's no soil. You're just spraying it with the water and nutrients it needs, and it can grow way faster. And
totally,
it's all cool stuff.
Yeah, hydroponics is awesome. Okay, so that's a weird question. I already put you in charge of the world once. I'm going to do it again. If you, is there some, I'll give you an example. I feel like if I could just teach the world to drive, this world would be a much better place. So either I'm way too overconfident in my driving skills or I'm right. It's one of those are the only two options. Is there something that you see that, man, like if I could just, let's do this. Why aren't we doing things this way?
Yeah, I got a great answer for this one.
Yeah?
Yeah. Our education system is a nightmare.
Amen.
If I could only change one thing in the education system, it would be that a high school, I don't know what you would call this, right? Kind of like a home ec, but a high school finance and taxes class.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't mean like finance degree. I mean
checkbook.
When are you supposed to pay taxes?
Yeah.
How do you file taxes? Who do you talk to? Do you need to have an accountant? Do you do TurboTax? Like stuff that once you're out of high school and
smacked in the face with it.
Yeah, you're just like, I have to wait. What? Taxes? How do I do this?
It already automatically comes out of my check, and I still have to work on this crap.
Yeah, and I would honestly bet that there's a massive amount of money that is not paid to the federal government.
Oh yeah,
that's supposed to be just because people don't know.
Yeah.
And it's not their fault.
No.
It's just that they don't know that they're supposed to. And so it goes back to the finance aside from taxes is managing your, like, how expensive of a car can you afford?
Yeah.
At what price, right? Like, I'm working at whatever it is, $20 an hour, and I work this much. How much car should I buy?
Right.
Because I probably could make payments on my $100,000 truck for a construction company. Right. But should I? And
right.
Why shouldn't I if I shouldn't? And there's nobody tells you that.
No.
You have to go out and find it yourself.
Yeah.
Research it. I don't know, Dave Ramsey, whatever, YouTube.
Hope that your parents help teach you.
Yeah, the parents are a big one. Like that would be the hope. But then the parents went through the same school system.
Totally.
So whether they were smart enough to figure it out on their own, or they again, they had parents that knew.
Yeah.
So that frustrates me to no end. That I feel like there's so many people, and I don't know if it's on purpose.
Yeah, it might be.
Right? Because you need the people that are over leveraged to continue working and doing all those things.
Yeah.
And so if you set everyone up so that they don't over leverage themselves, does the whole like banking industry collapse? Because now there's no loans and there's no,
right.
I don't know, but that bothers me if they don't teach you that in high school.
Yeah. It's funny because that's a common thing that I hear. And not that I've actually never asked that question on this podcast, so that's not where I hear it. But, I mean, I am in the banking industry, right? So like there's so many people across all just interactions that I've had where they're like, why don't we learn this stuff in high school? Everybody has to do it. So why don't we learn it?
Yeah. And I would argue it's the most important class you could ever take.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's more important than your math class. It's more important than art.
Right. Because how many people need to know calculus? How many people need to know, and how many even gets to calculus anyways?
Right.
Or whatever the thing is. And right, it's the classic, well, you aren't going to have a calculator in your pocket when you're older. Yes, we all do have a calculator in our pocket. So that didn't end up being true, but not all of us know how to do taxes. Yeah. And not everybody knows how to balance their checkbook. Yeah. And not, right, like.
How often do you paint during the day or during the week or year? Or when was the last time you painted anything?
For me, it was Sunday. But right. Yeah.
But as
anything that's important.
Right.
As not just doing art class,
benefit, but like as a I don't want to say job benefit, right? But as a benefit to your being, benefiting your being that's not health related.
Right.
Like there's some mental health component to art that I totally understand.
Right. But it's in comparison, should we be doing art class or should we be doing finance and tax class?
Yeah.
You can figure out art.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of the point.
Yeah, it is, because it should be.
Could just go
whatever.
Like you don't need to be taught how. I mean, yes, if you want to get like fancy and
you can,
yes,
but you don't need. Yeah.
You don't need to. But yeah, there's not a lot of nuance in taxes.
Yeah, but there's not a single class in high school that I think would be more important than that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, any of the science classes, like I think science is important, but you pick any one in particular, I'd say nope, get rid of that and put the science one in.
Like earth science is fun. Yeah, cool. I know those minerals and earthquakes, how those work, and tornadoes, and
how does that affect my daily life?
Right,
it doesn't.
Yeah,
none of those I mean, maybe math would be one of the only ones that I would say like, okay, that affects your daily life more than you would realize.
Right.
But outside of math, English, maybe a little. It depends on the English class.
Totally.
But history, not so much.
Right. Well, and again, I mean, this kind of goes back to the point of AI is going to definitely disrupt some of this.
Yeah.
You can get into the history of it and some people's interpretations. I tend to lean towards you needed somewhere for the kids to go, and during the Industrial Revolution,
paid for babysitting,
right? And so, okay, so now you have state-sponsored education. You got this, and then you're just breeding workers, and this whole thing keeps going.
And I think there is something to that.
Yeah,
but
and that even goes back to there is no more. And this isn't totally true, right? People lament this, and it's a little overblown. But where'd woodshop go? Where did the machine shop go? Where did home ec go? Where all that stuff, those are all important.
Actually physical skills.
Yeah, actually. Well, and it was the emphasis on everybody needs a 4-year degree. Everybody needs a 4-year degree. You know what we need right now? It's people in the trades.
Yeah.
And
if you are willing to go in the trades early enough, you could make so much money.
So much money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's almost an endless
Mike
need.
Rowe hit that nail on the head way before everyone else realized it.
Yeah. Well, and now we have a student loan debt bubble that is real nasty. We have the highest consumer credit card. It might just be blanket consumer debt that we've ever had as a nation. I mean, just you can like keep
let's talk
going
about
down
the college thing again too.
Yeah, let's hit the college thing.
What a racket! Because
yeah,
and I mean they figured it out to their credit.
Yeah,
but colleges have become, instead of a place of learning, it's basically a resort.
Oh yeah,
like gyms, pools, all the cool stuff to draw people in.
Yeah,
and then they get to charge whatever they want for tuition. They get funding from the government too. They get money from all these directions.
Yeah.
And in the end, it's just screwing the student because the student had to pay way too much money to go to this school. And then they get out on the other side and they're like, wait, if I make this much because of my degree, how long will it take for me to pay back my school?
The rest of your life.
Yeah. It's way longer than it took you to go to school.
Yeah. Well, and that's a whole, right? Like, I lament the boomers. They were able to go to college for nothing comparatively, right?
Well, why? And it's because the colleges at that point hadn't figured it out yet.
They hadn't figured it out, and it wasn't government funded.
Yeah.
Right. You could have gone to a bank and gotten a student loan. And I'm not sure like what the time frame of that looked like, but I remember when I got into banking in 2006, and the banks had just gotten out of student loan lending. And so I would still have people come in and say, hey, will you give me a student loan? And I'd be like, no, here's a flyer. And it talks about how you can get it through the government, but banks don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And banks are stringent when they lend on just about anything. Right.
Well, especially student loans, because the interest rates are so low, like you don't get any return for that.
No. And if you could, how many people would default, right? Because, I did graduate, but I got a gig that's not paying for it. So I'm just going to bankrupt out of it.
Right. And as a bank, can I dictate what degrees that I provide loans for? Because I'm sure not providing one for an arts degree.
Heck no.
Yeah.
Again, we can figure out how to paint. And so when the government says, you're an 18-year-old that we didn't teach taxes or finances to with our government-sponsored schooling, here's $100,000. Yeah, you have a good time, buddy.
Yep.
And
apply it to whatever you want. Liberal arts, anything.
Yeah.
Go for it.
It's psychotic.
Yeah. And it's not fair to the students too, because just like you said, they didn't go through a class to learn finance.
No.
So they get to that point, they're like, oh, this is great. This is what I want to do. And then they don't realize until after the fact that it's like, oh, wait a second.
Right.
I don't have a good job and I have $100,000 in student loans that I have to pay back. How do I do that?
Yeah. I mean, I knew a doctor one time that he had actually built a pretty good practice, made pretty good money, had a beautiful sailboat. But the way that he structured his stuff, he didn't pay himself. And I think like maybe he paid his partner. I don't know. Anyways, his personal tax return was very little.
Yeah.
Which meant that he kept getting forbearance on his student loan debt. I'm like, you are working. One, congratulations on working the system. That's fantastic. Yeah. I applaud that actually. Yeah. But like he was like 55 or 60. I'm like, you're just going to die.
Yep.
And have all this, that it's just going to get written off.
Yeah.
And so the whole way, the whole system, there's so many, you pull at this thread and it just, they all connect. And if you pull hard enough, maybe the whole thing should just come down. I don't know.
Yeah. There's some flaws for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay. So on that note, man, we did so good on the timing of this. Perfect. Okay. This is the last question. Actually, before I ask my last question, nope. Every time I preface it, people end up answering my last question anyway. So I'm just going to ask the last question. If you had a megaphone that could reach everybody in the world.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about
what would your message to the people be?
That's another great question because it totally depends on what. But I mean, it might go back to the finance class. But if we're talking about just like, I guess here's my other answer to that is concentrate on your own crap.
Yeah.
Not everyone else's.
That's a good point. It's a really good point.
that applies to way too many things.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you could talk religion, politics, whatever, but it's worry about yourself.
Yeah.
Don't worry about what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
Unless it directly affects you.
Totally.
If it indirectly affects you,
leave it alone.
Leave it alone.
Yeah. Nice. Cool. Keaton, this has been a blast. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I might want a seat on that plane after Emily gets a red.
Yeah, I'll make sure it works first.
Yeah, that'd be good. My wife would appreciate it. All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Main Character Podcast. If you dig the content, please click that follow button. And if you found today's guest inspiring, please share this episode with someone you think will benefit from it. If you'd like to be a guest on Main Character Podcast, reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, where I'd also appreciate a follow. All links can be found at my website, coachwithbrandon.com.